A Werewolf Shifter Romance, written by Lily Robert. Prologue. Most people will tell you love at first sight doesn't exist. It can't. The very notion defies logic, mocks reason, betrays common sense. Real love, lasting love, requires time, understanding. How can you love someone you don't even know? It's an illusion. That's what Juliet Barnes believed, what she knew with bone-deep certainty. Until him. Until the moment the crowd, the noise, time itself, all of it, fell away. Until there was only Flynn. Only his eyes, locking with hers across the room. Only the way his lips parted in astonishment, like he'd just been struck, like he'd been waiting. And Juliet knew him, though they'd never met, recognized him, though they'd never spoken. Like her heart had been carved with his exact shape, an empty space she hadn't noticed until he filled it. Too perfectly, maybe. "It'll burn out in a month," one friend had said. "He's love-bombing you," another warned. "Don't move in with him," her mother begged. But how could Juliet explain? Being with Flynn wasn't a decision, it was a recognition. An inevitability. Flynn felt it too, said he'd known the second he saw her, said he'd love her until his dying breath. So, the truth about love at first sight is that it's not impossible. Sometimes it is real. Sometimes it consumes you, only it can be devastating. Because when Juliet lay tangled in Flynn's sheets, wrapped in his arms, drowning in promises of forever, she truly believed. Believed in him. Believed in them. She hadn't realized that sometimes love disappears as suddenly as it arrives, leaving nothing behind but questions burning in the hollow spaces of your chest. She'd find out soon enough. 5 months after they met, Flynn vanished. No goodbye, no explanation, no trace. Juliet was left with an empty bed, a hole in her chest, and the certainty she'd never feel whole again. And then the wolf appeared. March 1993. Chapter 1, Juliet. On her favorite rock overlooking the valley, Juliet watches the sunrise paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. Branches of ancient pines sway in the wind, carrying whispers she can't quite catch. Flynn would have made her listen to them anyway, pretended to catch their meaning. In truth, this was his favorite place, not hers. If she closes her eyes, she can almost feel the press of his lips against her neck, featherlight, as he'd wake her in the early mornings to beg her to go hiking with him. She'd groan but would always say yes because it was Flynn asking, and she loved the way the early morning sun caught in his golden curls. But it's over now. Flynn is gone. He dumped her sorry ass. Juliet wishes she was back here for the view, to bask in nature's beauty. But the truth is, this is the only place where she can scream her heart out without concerned neighbors calling 911. Again. It's been 3 months since the breakup. 3 months, and Flynn still hasn't bothered reaching out to give her an explanation. He used to touch her like he couldn't quite believe she was real, and then out of the blue, he'd left her without so much as a warning. How did that make sense? Juliet sobs. If Katie could see her now, she'd roll her eyes into next week, but Katie doesn't get it. No one does. No one saw the way Flynn looked at her. No one felt the way his warmth wrapped around her at night, how his arms made her feel like she belonged. He was an addiction. Now she's crashing hard. She remembers how he pressed his face into her hair when they hugged, how his hands never stopped touching, always seeking some point of contact, even in sleep. Now she hugs herself. How can someone who held her like that just vanish? Katie swears he was married. Men that perfect always have a secret family. But it doesn't track. Flynn was always with her. Brought her breakfast, surprised her with lunch, spent every night tangled up in her sheets. When would he have time for a second life? Was any of it real? She whispers. The question tastes bitter. Maybe that's worse than him being married, the idea that none of it meant anything. But if it was a con, why? He never asked for money, never tried to control her. The only thing he ever took was... Everything, she breathes to the empty woods. You took everything that mattered. Her mind circles back, endlessly, to their last conversation. That night, he was supposed to come over for dinner and never showed. When he'd finally called, hours after midnight. "Flynn, where are you? Are you okay?" she asked. "My heart," he murmured. A soft, slurred laugh. "God, I missed your voice, missed you, so much. Hurts." Her heart had cracked in her chest. "You didn't show up. I was worried sick." I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry, got caught up. Pack stuff. Lyra said I couldn't drive, but I need you so bad." "Flynn, are you drunk?" He laughed, denied it, though he obviously was. "I love you so much, Juliet." His voice had turned raw. "Don't want you to be mad at me. Promise me you won't be mad." The dread had started then, cold and gnawing. "Mad about what, Flynn?" "Didn't mean to lie," he'd mumbled. "Wanted to tell you everything, but I don't want you to be scared. Can't lose you." "Flynn?" she'd cried. "Where are you? I'll come find you." "You can't," he slurred. "Not safe. Too many of us. Too many who could. I have to protect you. Always protect my Juliet, my mate." "You're what?" she asked. "What does that mean?" He laughed again, soft, ragged. "Means I'm made for you, baby. Made to protect you. To claim you. God, I want to claim you so bad." There'd been a thud, a muffled curse. "Flynn, what's going on? You're scaring me." "I'm scared," he breathed. "Scared of what I'll do if I don't see you soon. You have no idea what you do to me. It's in my blood, Juliet, in my bones. I think about you and I get... God, it's like my body knows you're mine and doesn't care that I haven't earned it yet." "Flynn, please. Just wait for me," he said, voice fading. "I'll be right over. Just need a little sleep first. Then I'll tell you everything. No more secrets, promise." Then silence. Just his slow, even breathing until the line disconnected. She'd stayed up all night, waiting, but he never came. And then, nothing. 3 months of nothing. How do you come back from that? A twig snaps, making Juliet jump. Suddenly the forest feels too quiet. No birds, no rustling. Just stillness pressing against her skin. "Hello?" she calls. No answer. The hair on her neck rises. That feeling again, like eyes watching her. It's been happening more and more. A shaky laugh escapes her. "Great, now I'm paranoid and pathetic." Just like the day she went to the police. Described a fiancé who seemed too perfect, who volunteered with sick kids, who'd vanished without warning, and realized, too late, she'd known almost nothing about him. No friends, no family introductions, vague stories, gentle deflections, and she'd eaten it up like a fool. A flicker in her peripheral vision. She whirls. Nothing, just mist and trees. But the quiet now feels thick, pressing. She wipes her eyes, ready to head back, then freezes. There, 30 feet away, still as stone, a wolf. Massive, real, silver-gray fur gleaming in the morning light. And its eyes? Juliet's breath catches. Oh God. She bolts upright, nearly dropping her Walkman. The wolf doesn't move, doesn't growl, just watches. Not that it matters. Run! Screams her brain, and she obeys. She sprints down the trail, boots sliding on slick leaves. A root catches her foot, and she crashes down, gravel tearing her palms. She scrambles up, breath ragged. No bite, no chase. She dares to look back. Nothing. Only mist and trees. She keeps running. At last the parking lot comes into view. Her car. A ranger, maybe in his 60s, leans against his truck with a thermos of coffee. There's, Juliet gasps. A wolf, huge, back on the trail. The ranger's brow furrows. A wolf? That's impossible. We haven't had wolves in Silver Falls for decades. But I saw... She turns. The forest looks calm, quiet, peaceful. Probably just a big dog, he offers kindly. People let them off leash up here all the time, even though they shouldn't. Right, she mumbles, fumbling for her keys. A dog, of course. She drives away, heart still pounding. In the rearview mirror, the ranger's figure fades into mist, like everything else she thought she knew. Chapter 2, Juliet. Juliet's spoon scrapes the bottom of her second pint of Rocky Road as Sandra Bullock confesses her love on the TV screen. The ice cream doesn't taste as good as it should. Nothing does these days. But she keeps eating anyway, tucked into her oversized sweater like a turtle in its shell. Her phone rings and she already knows who it is before checking the caller ID. Hi, Nana. Just checking you haven't died alone in that house of yours. Her grandmother's voice crackles through the receiver. Since you're clearly not dead, how about dinner with Richard's grandson this Saturday? He's a doctor. No. Juliet pulls her knees to her chest, balancing the empty ice cream container on top. I'm done with dating. I clearly have the worst taste in men possible. Sweetheart, that's not true. Of course it is. First Mark, who I married straight out of high school. That ended exactly how everyone warned me it would. She switches the phone to her other ear. And then Flynn. Her voice catches on his name. Even now it feels like swallowing broken glass. At least Mark had the decency to serve me divorce papers, she continues. He didn't just disappear into thin air. Fine, her grandmother says, surprising her. Who needs men? What you need is a pet. Juliet almost laughs. A pet? Yes. A cat, maybe. Or a dog. Something to come home to, something to love that won't ghost you or run off with their secretary. Mark didn't run off with his secretary, Juliet corrects automatically. It was his dentist. Same difference. Anyway, how's therapy going? Juliet's stomach clenches with guilt. Fine, she lies, thinking of the appointment she canceled this morning. Dr. Chen's gentle probing about Flynn had felt too raw, too real. Really helpful. Liar. I'm not... Juliet Marie Barnes, I changed your diapers. You can't lie to me. Her grandmother's voice softens. You can't keep canceling appointments, sweetheart. I just needed a break today. Juliet eyes the empty ice cream container. She carries the phone with her to the kitchen, her grandmother's voice filling the quiet house with stories about the latest church gossip. The shadows feel different tonight, deeper somehow. Juliet's hand hovers over the light switch, but she leaves it off. Maybe Dr. Chen was right. She should go back to therapy and talk about these moments when the darkness seems to watch her. Juliet? Her grandmother's voice sharpens. You've gone quiet. Juliet swallows hard. The hair on the back of her neck stands up, that familiar sensation of being observed crawling across her skin. Nana, do you ever feel like you're being watched? Watched? All traces of gossip vanish from her grandmother's tone. From where? By whom? I don't know. Juliet moves to the front window, scanning the street. Her heart pounds against her ribs, too fast, too loud. It's been happening for weeks, this feeling of presence. Like someone's right there, but when I turn around... Could be someone walking their dog, sweetheart. People are always out at night in your neighborhood. As if summoned by her grandmother's words, a man passes under the streetlight, walking a German shepherd. You're probably right, Juliet says, turning away from the front window. I'm being silly. The motion light in her backyard clicks on. Through the kitchen window, a silver-gray wolf sits in her garden, massive and still. Moonlight catches its fur, creating an almost ethereal glow. Its eyes, those impossible knowing eyes, lock onto hers, and Juliet knows. This is the same wolf from the preserve. It followed her here, and now it's sitting perfectly still, eyes fixed on her through the glass. The phone slips from Juliet's numb fingers, clattering to the floor. Juliet? Her grandmother's voice calls from the fallen receiver. Juliet, what was that noise? The wolf's eyes hold her frozen in place, eyes that seem to know her, that look almost. I'm calling the police. Her grandmother's voice grows more panicked. No, Juliet snatches up the phone. When she looks back through the window, the yard is empty. The motion light clicks off, plunging everything into darkness. No, Nana, I'm fine. I thought I saw. She presses her forehead against the cool glass. I dropped the phone because I thought I saw something outside. Better be safe than sorry, Nana protests. No, it was nothing. Juliet backs away from the window. I'm just tired. Seeing things? But later, curled up in her bed with all the lights on, she can still feel those eyes watching her. Chapter 3, Juliet. Juliet sinks deeper into the overstuffed leather armchair, watching dust motes dance in the afternoon sunlight. Dr. Chen's office always smells like lavender. The therapist sits across from her, a woman with kind eyes and elegant gray-streaked hair. How are you feeling today, Juliet? Like I've been hit by a bus, Juliet wants to reply. I didn't sleep very well last night. She confesses instead. Dr. Chen's pen hovers over her notepad. What's on your mind? She asks. Juliet picks at a loose thread on her sleeve. I feel watched all the time, like someone's following me. The words tumble out faster now. When I'm getting coffee, when I'm walking to my car after work, even in my own house. Sometimes I hear footsteps behind me, but when I turn around, there's no one there. The shadows feel wrong, like they're hiding something. These feelings of being watched, they can be common with depression. Dr. Chen's voice is gentle. Our minds sometimes create physical manifestations of our emotional state. Juliet shakes her head. That doesn't make sense. That's not what it is at all. I saw a wolf, she says. A wolf? Dr. Chen's eyebrows lift slightly. I think it's following me, Juliet explains. First in the preserve, then in my backyard last night. I know how it sounds, but... Juliet wraps her arms around herself. It just sits there, watching me, like it knows me. You mean it's always the same wolf? Dr. Chen asks after a pause. Yes, Juliet confirms. It's very big and gray and it always looks sad. She chokes down a sob at her last words. Juliet, Dr. Chen asks gently, have you ever heard of wolves following a particular person across locations like that? And furthermore, looking sad? Juliet says nothing. She sounds insane. She feels kind of insane. Are you ready to talk about Flynn? Dr. Chen asks softly. Juliet's heart misses a beat. He has nothing to do with the wolf. She murmurs. I'm not so sure. Dr. Chen sets down her pen. Sometimes our minds create symbols, physical representations of our fears that feel more controllable, more tangible. Juliet stares out the window. Katie, that's my friend. She thinks... She pauses. She thinks our relationship was all staged, that perhaps Flynn had been preying on me. She meets the therapist's eyes, looking for confirmation, or better yet, refutation. Is that what you think? The therapist asks instead. I don't know. He was always so eager for us to spend time together. Juliet hears his voice in her head whispering, drunk and frantic. I think about claiming you, Jules, all the time. It's all I think about. My teeth in your throat, my mark on your skin. He'd made a low groan, like he was trying to stifle it and failing. You're my mate, my only one. And every day I don't touch you, every night I don't bury myself inside you, it burns. Where did you go? Dr. Chen asks, interrupting her thought. Juliet blushes. Nowhere. It's nothing, she murmurs, lowering her gaze. You mentioned him volunteering at the hospital where you work? Dr. Chen encourages. Where I work as a nurse, yes. He was amazing with the kids in the oncology ward. They adored him. She remembers how natural he'd been with them, how his presence seemed to ease their pain. We had our first date that weekend. He spent the night, then the weekend. He moved in not long after. Dr. Chen keeps quiet for a moment. Do you feel that was a normal pace? She ends up asking. I know it wasn't. Juliet's laugh is hollow. Everyone told me we were moving too fast. But being with him, she searches for words. It was like finding a piece of myself. A piece I hadn't even known was missing until suddenly it was there. Again, she hears Flynn's voice, clear as day. Can't sleep without you, he'd mumbled. Need your body, need your scent. That sounds reassuring. Dr. Chen's comments. Why do you think you'd been feeling incomplete before him? That's the thing, I hadn't been. But when I met him, I realized I had been, because before, he wasn't there. Juliet shakes her head. I know it doesn't make sense. It's actually quite common in codependent relationships. Dr. Chen's voice remains neutral. We can become so entwined with another person that they feel essential to our very existence. If we were so codependent, why did he leave? Juliet snaps. Well, you mentioned certain physical symptoms he exhibited? Dr. Chen prompts carefully. Juliet nods. He'd get these migraines, she says slowly. Terrible ones. His hands would shake. And this didn't concern you? Of course it did. I begged him to see a doctor, but he always had excuses. She remembers finding him once, curled up in their dark bathroom, sweat glistening on his fevered skin. And as soon as I touched him, he'd... Juliet pauses, heat flooding her cheeks as she remembers Flynn's pupils dilating until his eyes were nearly black, his desperate kisses bruising her mouth, his hands everywhere at once like he needed to crawl inside her skin. He'd feel better, she finishes lamely. Dr. Chen makes a note. These symptoms you're describing, did you ever consider that Flynn might have been struggling with substance dependency? What? Juliet blinks. No, that's not what it was at all. Juliet, what you're describing, migraines, hand tremors, high metabolism, not to mention the overactive sex drive. He cooked for me every day. Juliet proclaims, the defense rising sharp and sudden. Remembered every little thing I mentioned liking. He'd wake up early to warm up my car before work. I'm not saying he didn't have qualities. Dr. Chen's voice softens. But perhaps beneath them was something weighing on him, something he didn't share. The words hit too close to home and Juliet's heart plummet. That last call, the thing he'd said, the state of him. Juliet, he'd choked out, please, let me come to you. I'll be gentle or rough, however you want me. I'll worship you, ruin you, make you forget how to be alone. You are not getting in a car like this, she'd snapped. Flynn, you need to sleep. You're not thinking straight. I'm thinking straight for the first time in weeks, he'd slurred. I'm leaving everything. The pack, the land. Lyra will take over, I even told Cade. It's done. I just want you. Juliet hadn't known what to say. None of what he was saying made sense. You're leaving the what? She'd asked. Forget it, he'd muttered. I'll give it all up, Jules, for you. Just promise me you won't run when I tell you. I couldn't take that. What are you saying? You'll hate me, he whispers. If I tell you, you'll hate me. She tries to hold back the tears, but fails. So you think he was married too? She asks in a small voice. I didn't say that. Dr. Chen relies. It could have been any number of things. I don't want to talk about him anymore, Juliet murmurs. Dr. Chen nods, writing something on her prescription pad. I'd like you to start taking these, and I want to see you again in 2 days. She tears off the prescription. These visual manifestations, the wolf, they concern me. Great, Juliet thinks, taking the prescription. I'm officially insane. The parking lot feels different when she steps outside. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows that seem to move when she's not looking directly at them. The air itself feels charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Juliet feels it before she sees it. It's sitting beside her car, silver-gray fur gleaming with an almost phosphorescent quality in the strange light. The wolf is larger than she remembered, its presence somehow filling the entire lot with something ancient and wild. "You're not real," she whispers, but the words feel hollow. She forces herself to get in her car, hands shaking as she turns the key. In her rearview mirror, the wolf remains watching over her.
Chapter 4. Flynn. Even from this distance, her scent lingers. Honey-sweet skin, lavender shampoo. Her name pulses through his blood like a second heartbeat. Juliet, my mate. Flynn's nostrils flare, drawing in the fading trail as he watches the silver car wind down the forest road. Gravel crunches beneath the tires. Motion. Leaving. She's leaving. His muscles tighten, ready to give chase, to follow, to claim. Finally. But he stays rooted, forces himself to stillness. She hadn't screamed this time. That was progress. Last week, just a glimpse of him through the trees had sent her running. Her terror had cut deeper than any bullet. But today she had only frozen. One hand gripping her car door. A low whine escapes him. Maybe next time she'll let him come closer. Not too close. He wouldn't risk it. But close enough to breathe her in. To let her see his eyes and recognize something there. Something that tells her she's his. Always has been. His head lowers, snout brushing earth as unwelcome images surge. Her throat bared beneath his teeth. The copper tang of her blood. Her body beneath his. No. Flynn jerks his head violently, forcing the thoughts away. Claiming her would kill her. She's human, fragile. His Juliet, with her paper-thin skin and delicate bones. The mating bite would bind her to him, but it would take her life in the process. The silver car disappears around a bend, gone from sight, never from mind. He moves, loping through the forest, 2 miles to her house, white with blue shutters. He shouldn't be out during the day. Too risky. But nothing, not fear, not laws, can match the pull of her. Her scent is the only thing that silences the storm in his head. He reaches the woods behind her home, barely aware of the journey. Her scent is fresh here. Real. Flynn settles low in the underbrush, hidden, eyes fixed on her garden. Time slips sideways now. Minutes stretch into hours when she's on his mind. Soon, there might be nothing left of him. Only the wolf, desperate, starving for her. And if madness is where this leads, then let it come. He'll go mad here near her. A light flickers on in her kitchen. She's home. His tongue lolls, breath hot with anticipation. If she comes outside, maybe the wind will carry more of her to him. But it won't be enough. It never is. The two halves of his nature war within him, man and beast both crying out for her, but with different hungers. One to protect, the other to possess. He pictures her fingers in his fur, her lips forming his name without fear. In his dreams, she calls him home. Flynn nestles deeper into the shadows, waiting, for that is all he can do.
Chapter 5, Juliet. Juliet presses her forehead to the cool glass of the living room window, eyes scanning the tree line for what feels like the 100th time. Rain lashes the panes, warping her view of the garden. Thunder rumbles in the distance, echoing the churn of unease in her gut. She's being watched, again. Her fingers tighten around the orange prescription bottle in her hand. The pills rattle softly. "Take them when it starts," Dr. Chen had said. With a sigh, she sets the bottle down, too hard on the coffee table, and returns to the window. Rain pours harder now, a solid curtain of water. Only one lamp burns, casting a soft glow while leaving the rest of the room dim so she can see outside. Was that movement by the oak? No, just a branch in the wind. The wolf hasn't shown itself in 3 days, but its absence feels heavier than its presence. As if it's still out there, just out of sight, watching, waiting. The most unsettling part? She wants to see it again, and every time she doesn't, a quiet, bitter disappointment sinks into her bones. The shrill ring of the doorbell makes her jump. Her heart races as she presses a hand to her chest. "Coming!" she calls, hurrying to the door. There on the porch stands Nana Burke, 5 feet of floral-dressed determination under a rainbow umbrella. Her silver hair is perfectly coiffed, her eyes bright with mischief. She looks like she's headed to a 1960s garden party. "I brought Scrabble," she sing-songs, waving the game like it's fine jewelry. Juliet blinks. "Nana, you didn't tell me you were coming." Her eyes drop to the massive vintage suitcase at Nana's feet. Not an overnight bag. "Oh, I'm moving in, baby," Nana declares, sweeping past her with surprising speed. "Why is it so dark in here? Gloomy." She flicks on 3 lights in quick succession, flooding the room with brightness. Juliet winces but doesn't bother explaining the dimness was intentional. Nana would only ask why, and Juliet isn't ready to answer. "Grandma, I'm fine. You don't have to move in just to babysit me." "That's not why I'm here," Nana says, blinking far too innocently. "Oh, really? Then why?" "For the free food, of course," she says, heading for the kitchen and flinging open the fridge. She gasps, mock horrified. "Darling, where is the food?" Juliet peers around her. 3 takeout containers, a half-empty almond milk, and a depressing number of ice cream pints. Nana shakes her head. "You've been living off Ben & Jerry's again, haven't you?" Nana, we can just order in." "Nope, I'm going to the store." "The weather's awful, look outside." "Pish-posh," she says, grabbing her keys and slamming the door before Juliet can stop her. Juliet stares at the closed door, the sudden quiet pressing in around her again. She sinks onto the couch, guilt creeping in. Nana drove 3 hours and is now moving in because she doesn't trust Juliet to be okay alone. She's a grown woman, a nurse. She takes care of other people for a living. And yet, part of her is relieved. Having someone here, someone who knew her before Flynn, before the hospital, before everything came undone, grounds her. A sudden crash from outside jolts her upright. "Oh my God, Grandma!" She bolts for the door. Rain hits her instantly, soaking through her shirt as she races across the porch. Nana's ancient Buick is smashed against the oak tree at the end of the driveway. The driver's door is open. "Are you hurt?" Juliet yells over the storm, sprinting toward the car. Nana stands beside it, silver hair plastered to her face, blinking in the rain. "I swerved," she says. "There was something. I didn't hit you, did I?" Juliet frowns. "Hit what, the tree?" But Nana's already circling the car, peering behind it. Juliet follows and stops dead. There, sprawled on the gravel, is the wolf. Soaked, bloody, one leg bent wrong, its chest rises and falls with shallow, labored breaths. "Oh God," she breathes. The wolf's eyes open, amber and unblinking, and meet hers. Recognition hits her like a punch. She freezes. Rain pounds down her shoulders. Every instinct screams, "Run! Get Nana inside. Call someone." But instead she steps forward. The wolf doesn't move, doesn't growl. It just trembles, ribs shuddering. Its front leg looks broken, blood pooling beneath it, mixing with rain. "Juliet, get back here!" Nana shouts, panicked. But Juliet doesn't move. She can't look away from those eyes that feel familiar, that reach into some part of her she thought long buried. "It's hurt," she calls back. "It needs help." The wolf lets out a soft whine. The sound cuts straight through her. It's not feral. It's not wild. It's sad. "You poor thing," she whispers, stepping closer. Now she's within reach. She can see the steam rising off its fur. See the rain clinging to each strand. See the pain in its trembling limbs. Her training kicks in. The wolf is in shock, bleeding. If she doesn't act, it'll die. Slowly, keeping her movements calm, she lowers her hand, palm down. The wolf watches her. Its jaw stays relaxed. Another soft whine escapes. "It's okay," she murmurs, her fingers brushing its muzzle. "I won't hurt you." A shudder runs through the wolf, and then, incredibly, it leans into her touch, nuzzles her hand even. Tears spring to Juliet's eyes. "That's it," she whispers. And then collapses into her hand. Its massive body goes still against the gravel. And Juliet's heart sinks like a stone.
Chapter 6. Flynn. Pain pulses through Flynn's body, but it's distant, irrelevant next to the miracle of Juliet's touch. Her fingers run through his fur. Her scent floods his senses, washing away the copper tang of blood. Lavender. Honey. Home. His muscles go slack, thoughts scatter. His eyes are too heavy to stay open. Consciousness comes in waves, softness beneath him. No more gravel. Indoors. She brought him into her home, the thunder of his heartbeat. Juliet's voice, tight with worry, somewhere above. Throwing himself in front of the car had been worth it. A calculated risk. Juliet wouldn't leave someone injured. She never had the heart for that. He remembers her nursing a wounded sparrow once. And when the bonding sickness left him collapsed on her bathroom floor, burning with fever from their incomplete bond, he'd felt her cool hand on his forehead. Her touch had soothed him then. It does now. She scratches behind his ear, and he melts beneath her fingers, whimpering despite himself. "Shh, it's okay," she murmurs. He presses closer, nuzzling her palm. Her scent spikes with tension and he whines again, wanting to reassure her. He's drunk on her, her touch, her scent, her nearness. It was always like this. Even in human form, her presence disarmed him. He'd either collapse beside her, head on her shoulder, or burn with a different need, dragging her to bed with kisses and restless hands. Proximity soothed and inflamed him all at once. "Juliet, be reasonable." A woman's voice cuts through the haze. Older. Familiar. The driver. She smells like Juliet, but sharper. Family. Juliet is arguing with her. He doesn't know about what. Her fingers return behind his ear, and he sighs, sinking again into peace. She used to smile just for him. Not the wide grin she gave strangers, but the small, secret one. The one that made her eyes sparkle, that whispered across a room, "I see you. I choose you. I want you." Does she still smile like that? Would she, if she knew what he was? Take him to a vet. The older voice fades in and out. Flynn tries to growl, but it comes out a whimper. "You're a vet, Nana," Juliet replies firmly. "You can help him. What if they try to cage him, or decide he's dangerous?" She smells so good. He nudges his muzzle against her wrist, dragging it weakly across her skin. Scent marking. Instinct. A mingling of them. He used to do that in human form, too, after they made love, holding her close, his face in her hair, hands roaming her skin. Sometimes, she'd already be asleep. He'd still whisper to her, telling her how perfect she was, how she was his wolf always near the surface in those moments, though he never let it show. "Haven't practiced in years," the older woman insists, "and never had I had to stabilize a wounded wolf." Flynn exhales softly, amused. They needn't worry. By morning, his bones will be mending. But a new fear claws through the fog. When he heals, Juliet will send him away. She'll think he's fine, that he doesn't need her. She'll close the door. He can't let that happen. Not now. Not after tasting her nearness again. The sickness would return, worse. He'd lose himself. He'll stay. He'll limp. He'll fall down the stairs if he must. Whatever it takes to keep her fingers in his fur, her scent in his lungs. Warmth glows against his side. Firelight. They've placed him by the hearth. The heat prickles through his fur, seeping into his bones. Juliet's voice mingles with the crackle of flames. Her hands cradle his head, and thoughts dissolve into sensation. His final drifting thought, if it can even be called a thought, is this. He would gladly break every bone in his body, twice, 3 times over, if it meant she would keep touching him like this.
Chapter 7. Juliet. Juliet wakes with a jolt, momentarily disoriented by the snoring beside her. Nana. Right. She'd insisted on sharing Juliet's bed after Juliet refused to throw that poor creature back out into the storm. At least barricade the door, Nana had said, shoving the dresser across it while Juliet protested that wolves couldn't open doors. They're clever. I've seen the documentaries. Careful not to wake her, Juliet slips out of bed. Morning light filters through the blinds, casting striped shadows across the sheets. Is the wolf still there? Is it okay? Her heart quickens as she eases the dresser aside and slips into the hallway. The house is still, too still. She pauses at the top of the stairs, listening. Nothing. Barefoot, she descends quietly, hand trailing the banister. Last night, she left the wolf by the fireplace on a pile of blankets. The fire has burned down to glowing embers. She rounds the corner and freezes. Amber eyes meet hers. The wolf sits upright in the center of the room. Alert, calm. Only now does she register just how big it is. Nana might have been right. Maybe this was a terrible idea. But then the wolf lowers its head, as if chastened by her stare. You're up, she says, her voice too loud in the hush. Her eyes dart around, expecting chaos. Shredded cushions, broken lamps, claw marks. But everything is untouched, not a thing out of place. The wolf lets out a soft, pitiful whine. It tugs at her chest. You must be hungry. Its ears twitch. For a moment, it really seems like it understands her. She backs toward the kitchen, keeping it in view as she opens the fridge. Inside are steaks. Nana must have bought them yesterday. When did she go shopping? Juliet places one in a Tupperware, moving slowly, half expecting the wolf to lunge. But it doesn't. It just watches. She crosses the room and sets the container on the floor. It's for you, she says, pointing awkwardly. The wolf glances at the meat, then at her, before padding forward. It eats without hesitation, but neatly, not the wild frenzy she expects. She studies it more closely. The injured leg looks better, almost normal. Was she wrong about the break? There's still blood in its fur, but no new bleeding. Water? She asks, already filling a bowl. The wolf finishes eating and licks the container clean. When she sets the bowl down, it drinks deeply, then sits again, gazing up at her. You probably want to go outside, she murmurs, though the idea leaves a strange emptiness behind. The wolf whines. Juliet walks to the door and opens it. Rain-washed sunlight gleams across the garden. The wolf approaches the threshold, then hesitates. It looks up at her again, ears drooping. Go on, she says gently. You're better now. It holds her gaze for a beat longer, then steps onto the porch, tail low. She watches it go, a dull ache blooming in her chest. Well, she whispers, that's that. Help a wild animal and it goes back where it belongs. She shuts the door and returns to the kitchen, moving through the motions of breakfast. Eggs for Nana, toast for herself, though she barely touches it. Sitting at the table, she stares at the untouched toast as a wave of emotion wells up without warning. Tears sting her eyes. What's wrong with her? Why does it feel like something important just walked out the door? Unless it's not about the wolf at all. Unless it's about being left. Again. Like Flynn left, no goodbye, no explanation, just gone. A soft scratch at the front door breaks through the spiral of thoughts. She wipes her eyes and opens it. The wolf sits on the porch, looking up at her. Oh, she breathes. You're here. She drops to her knees without thinking. The wolf steps closer, muzzle brushing her wrist, then her neck. Warm breath grazes her skin, and she shivers. But it's not fear. It nuzzles her gently, its fur unexpectedly soft. She wraps her arms around the creature and buries her face in its coat. Tears rise again, hot, sudden, unstoppable. She cries without knowing why, without needing to. I'm glad you came back, she whispers, stroking its back. The wolf leans into her, solid and silent, as if trying to comfort her. Some part of her knows this isn't normal. Wild animals don't do this. They don't come back. They don't offer comfort. But she doesn't care. Not right now. Chapter 8, Juliet. Time moves differently with a wolf in your house. Juliet doesn't notice it right away. It creeps in, slow and subtle, like summer slipping into fall. One day you're in shorts, the next you need a sweater, and you can't say exactly when the shift happened. It starts with the back porch. Every night she leaves the door cracked open, ignoring Nana's grumbling about heating bills and basic survival instincts. And every morning the wolf is there, curled just outside like a silver-furred guardian. He's not going to murder us in our sleep, Juliet says over breakfast, watching him stretch in a sunbeam. Nana snorts. That's what they always say, right before they get murdered in their sleep. But even as she protests, she sneaks him bacon from her plate. Not that he's staying, she adds primly. But he stays. By the second week, he moves inside. It happens during a thunderstorm. Juliet finds him pressed against the front door, trembling with each thunderclap. Come here, she whispers, guiding him to the fireplace. She builds a nest of blankets, and they fall asleep together. When she wakes, Nana is standing in the doorway, arms crossed. I suppose you think this is normal, she says, eyebrow raised. The wolf lifts his head, ears alert, eyes bright. Nothing about my life is normal anymore, Juliet replies quietly. Something in her voice makes Nana soften. I'll make pancakes, she says. The wolf's tail thumps in agreement. Days blur into weeks. He becomes part of their rhythm, padding after Juliet from room to room, settling at her feet when she reads, watching her with eyes that seem to know. You remind me of someone, she tells him one evening, fingers brushing through his thick coat. He stills for a moment, then nudges closer. The familiarity stings more than it should. Dr. Chen asks about the dog in their next session. He's not really a dog, Juliet says, but she doesn't know how else to explain it. Companion? Anchor? Ghost? He becomes her shadow. His presence turns the silence from unbearable to soothing. One night she dreams of Flynn, standing shirtless at the stove, sunlight on his skin, flipping pancakes. She reaches for him. He disappears. She wakes with tears in her eyes. A soft whine comes from the doorway. The wolf stands there, glowing amber eyes fixed on her. I miss him, she whispers. In 2 strides, he's at her side, resting his head on her lap. She buries her fingers in his fur and breathes in his warmth. He stays with her all night. After that, he sleeps in her room. At work, Katie notices. You're smiling more, she says over lunch. Lighter. Juliet stirs her coffee. Do I? Katie grins. Is there someone new? No, Juliet says too quickly. How could she explain that the ache Flynn left behind is being filled by something wild? That a wolf understands her grief better than anyone else? She comes home to find Nana pruning roses with the wolf sitting patiently beside her. You need acidic soil for hydrangeas, Nana explains, but roses like neutral, about 6.5. The wolf tilts his head as if taking notes. Juliet watches from the doorframe, something warm unfurling in her chest. It's not happiness, exactly. But maybe it's where happiness begins. That night she dreams of Flynn again. They're dancing in the kitchen, his laugh in her ear, his hands on her waist. She wakes with tears drying on her cheeks, the wolf curled around her legs like a warm barrier against the cold. I should probably be concerned you're in my bed, she murmurs, already drifting back to sleep. His presence is steady, grounding in a way Flynn's whirlwind romance never was. The wolf doesn't make promises, he just stays. When she breaks down in the shower, ugly, gasping sobs, the wolf scratches at the door until she lets him in. He rests his head on the edge of the tub, eyes full of something too deep to be animal. I'm okay, she whispers. And for the first time, she almost believes it. Chapter 9, Juliet. Warmth. That's the first thing Juliet registers as she drifts toward consciousness. A familiar warmth wrapped around her, solid and safe. She burrows deeper into it, drawn to the deep, steady breathing that fills the quiet behind her. She shifts, and strong arms tighten instinctively around her. Arms. The thought floats lazily through her mind, not quite catching. She's pressed against bare skin, a heartbeat steady beneath her cheek. The scent surrounding her is achingly familiar. Her eyes flutter open. A broad chest rises and falls beneath her cheek, and she's being held close, a large hand splayed possessively across her lower back. She should be terrified. Instead, her body recognizes this embrace before her mind catches up. Flynn. The name whispers through her mind, and suddenly she can't breathe. Flynn is gone. Flynn left her. But her hand trembles as she reaches up, fingers ghosting across his jaw. The stubble there catches against her skin. Real. Solid. She traces the line of his nose, the curve of his lips. His face is exactly as she remembers it, soft with sleep. This isn't real, she breathes. But she can feel his warmth, smell his skin, see the flutter of his eyelashes against his cheeks. Where is the wolf? The thought crashes through her daze like ice water. She jerks upright, scanning the room. No amber eyes watching from the shadows. Flynn stirs beneath her, a soft groan escaping his throat as his eyes slowly blink open. Those impossible blue eyes she thought she'd never see again, still clouded with dreams. They meet hers, and his face lights up for a moment. He looks at her the way he used to, like he's still half dreaming, like the past months never happened. Then, awareness crashes in. He sees her expression and his smile fades to confusion as his mind struggles to surface from sleep. He glances down at his hands, human hands, and goes very, very still, the last traces of drowsiness vanishing in an instant. His mouth opens. Juliet bolts. She stumbles down the hallway, thoughts fragmenting like broken glass. The wolf is gone. Flynn was in her bed. What's going on? Is this a dream? The kitchen tile is cold beneath her bare feet. She grips the counter, trying to steady herself. This isn't happening, she whispers. How did he get in? When? Why? And where's the wolf? Juliet? Nana's voice cuts through the chaos. What on earth? He's here. The words tear from her throat. Flynn, upstairs, in my bed. She points toward the stairs, unable to form coherent sentences. Nana's face hardens as she grabs the rolling pin from the counter. Stay here. Nana, wait. But her grandmother is already marching up the stairs, weapon raised. Juliet trails behind, heart thundering against her ribs. Nana throws open the bedroom door. Moonlight streams through the window, illuminating rumpled sheets, and the wolf lies curled in the center of her bed, amber eyes sad as they meet hers. I don't... Juliet sways on her feet. He was here. Flynn was here. Nana's arms wrap around her as her knees give out. Oh, sweetheart. I'm not crazy, Juliet whispers, but the words taste like ash. He was real. The wolf whines softly, and something inside her splinters. Chapter 10. Juliet. The wolf has been living with them for 3 months. Juliet realizes this as she wanders through the farmer's market, breathing in the scent of fresh herbs and late summer fruit. She's better now, not whole maybe, but better. She's examining peaches when movement catches her eye. Something about it snags her attention, a familiar silhouette that makes her heart stutter. She blinks again. Her heart is hammering in her chest now. It can't be, she thinks. But those shoulders, that hair catching sunlight like spun gold. This can't be real. Juliet's just having another hallucination. It has to be. The basket slips from her numb fingers. Peaches scatter across worn cobblestones, but she barely notices. Blood rushes in her ears as she stares, unable to look away. Flynn, her Flynn, stands at a vegetable stall 20 feet away, examining produce with detached interest. Something about the way he holds himself, too stiff, too formal, makes her question her sanity. She's just seeing what she wants to see. This can't be him. Flynn always had an easy grace about him, a quiet but powerful confidence. This man here moves like he's wearing clothes that don't quite fit, and yet, maybe it's not him. Maybe Juliet is just seeing things. She really should have started taking those pills. He turns, and that profile, his profile, steals the air from her lungs. The market spins around her. Voices blur into white noise. All she can see is him, standing there like it's perfectly normal, like he hasn't been gone for 6 months, like he didn't vanish without a trace and leave her drowning. Like he has every right to be here, going about his day, shattering her heart. Her feet move without permission. The crowd seems to float past her, faces smearing like watercolors. Her pulse pounds so hard she can taste it. She thinks she's in a dream again. When her fingers reach out, they're trembling, and when they brush his arm, his warm, real, solid arm. Oh God, she realizes. He's real, here, looking at her. Blue eyes meet hers, those beloved eyes she's dreamed about for 6 months. So beautiful, and yet empty of what made them Flynn's eyes. There's no warmth, no spark of recognition, none of that overwhelming joy that used to flood his face whenever he saw her. Can I help you? He asks, and her stomach lurches. It's his voice, exactly his voice, but the tone is all wrong. Cool, disconnected, like she's a stranger asking directions. Juliet can't breathe, can't think. This can't be happening. How is Flynn here? The market tilts beneath her feet like a carnival ride. Someone is speaking nearby, a young woman with short blonde hair, but the words don't register. All she can focus on is Flynn. Flynn, standing here in the sunshine like a ghost made flesh. The scent of his cologne hits her, the same one he always wore, and memories crash over her. Morning kisses tasting of coffee, his laugh against her neck, strong arms holding her close. But the man before her holds himself like a stranger wearing Flynn's skin. What? Her voice breaks. Her tongue feels too thick, clumsy with shock. What are you doing here? Why are you here? She wants to add. Why now? Why like this? Flynn says nothing for a long moment. His eyes study her like he's solving a puzzle. He never used to look at her like that, she realizes. From the moment they'd met, he'd looked at her with nothing but adoration. I'm accompanying my sister, Flynn says finally, gesturing to the blonde beside him. His tone is careful, measured, watching for her reaction. It should be warm, odd, unadulteratedly joyful. Juliet feels sick. Hello. The girl waves, smiling though her eyes are sharp with curiosity. I'm Lyra. Lyra, Juliet thinks, Flynn's little sister. Seeing her feels like a slap to the face. He'd mentioned her so many times, but Juliet had always imagined a child from the way he spoke of her, not this poised young woman. Another reminder of how little she really knew about his life. Her gaze is drawn back to Flynn's face like a magnet, drinking in features she thought she'd never see again. The curve of his jaw, the slight cleft in his chin, the tiny scar above his eyebrow, all exactly as she remembers, beloved, but somehow. Where were you? The question spills out before she can stop it, small and broken. Her chest aches with the effort of keeping her voice steady. Not a call, not a note, not even a word goodbye. Tears blur her vision, hot and humiliating. Were you ever going to... Did it even cross your mind to explain? To let me know you were okay? I thought... A small, desperate part of her wants to be cool, collected. To show him she's moved on, that his disappearance didn't shatter her world into pieces. But tears are already sliding down her cheeks, hot and betraying. Not a call, not a note, not even a word goodbye. Her throat closes around the words. Were you ever going to... Did it even cross your mind to explain? To let me know you were okay? I thought... Oh my God. Lyra's eyes widen as she grabs Flynn's arm. Are you Juliet? The recognition in Lyra's voice catches her off guard. He'd talked about her? Mentioned her to his family? Hope flares, painful and bright. Perhaps she'd mattered then. Perhaps it hadn't all been a lie. Lyra, leave us, Flynn says sharply, and something about his tone makes Juliet's skin prickle. He grabs her forearm, pulling her aside with jerky, anxious movements. Her Flynn was never hurried, never uncertain. He moved with an easy grace, like he had all the time in the world, like he somehow couldn't fathom that the world would not give him exactly what he wished for. I apologize, he says when they're alone. He meets her eyes. They're so familiar that for a moment she almost forgets her unease. I apologize for not being clear. He gestures between them, sharp and dismissive. This, he says with cold finality, is over. You and I were done. You get it? She shakes her head because she can't understand. Even with months of silence, even with him standing here now, cold and distant, it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. We had fun. It's in the past. You need to move on, Juliet. He turns to leave, then pauses. I would appreciate you not bothering me, my sister, or anyone else I know should we run into each other again. He waits like he expects a response, but she can't form words. With a final, measuring look, he sighs and walks away. Juliet's knees give out. It's done now. Really over. No more wondering, no more hoping it was all a misunderstanding. And still, as her heart splinters in her chest, nothing about this makes sense.
Chapter 11. Flynn. The walls of Juliet's house feel like a cage. Flynn paces, claws clicking on hardwood, the bond between them pulsing like an open wound. She's gone, and with every step she takes away from him, fire licks through his blood. Being near her these past months has been both salvation and torment. Her scent, her touch, they soothe the madness that nearly consumed him during their separation. But it's not enough. The bond howls for completion, for his teeth in her throat, for the ancient words of claiming. But he can't. Not like this. Not as a wolf. His bite would kill her. The only way is for Juliet to accept him freely, knowingly, willingly. But he can't speak, can't explain, can't even control his shifting anymore. His memories of captivity blur together. Chains, cages, screams, pain. The betrayal in his sister's eyes as they dragged him away. He hadn't understood then, too far gone from the bond sickness. But now, with Juliet near, his mind is clearer, and he sees the truth. The pack has turned against him, allies lost, his title stripped, the full weight of werewolf law now pointed at his back. If he can't protect himself, how can he protect Juliet? And if she knew what he was, what he is, she'd be in danger too. The pack wouldn't hesitate to use her against him. That's why he stayed silent that night, when he woke miraculously in human form beside her. The urge to speak had nearly crushed him. I'm here. I never left. I'm your wolf. But the words had died in his throat. Because then what? Tell her she's mated to a rogue shifter who can't even defend her? No. As long as she doesn't know, she's safe. He'd rather let the bond kill him than risk her life. Mine, the wolf snarls inside him. Mate, claim. But he can't. Won't. Not while everything that once protected him is now poised to destroy him. Pain rips through him, sudden, sharp, and Flynn stumbles. It's not his. Juliet. Her agony slams through the bond, raw and overwhelming. Her heartbreak brings him to his knees. He's at the door in 2 bounds, claws gouging wood. What's gotten into you? Nana appears behind him, but her voice barely registers. Juliet is hurting, and nothing else matters. He throws himself against the door. It splinters. Nana shouts something. He doesn't care. The world blurs past as he runs, following the invisible thread that binds him to his mate. Her pain guides him like a beacon, until... There. Juliet sits crumpled on the sidewalk, shoulders shaking with sobs. She looks so small, so broken, that for a moment his heart stops. His body moves before thought, pure instinct driving him to her side. If he were human, he'd gather her in his arms, whisper comfort against her hair, kiss away her tears. He'd tell her that he never left her. Not really. That every breath he takes belongs to her. Instead, all he can do is press his fur against her skin, trying to transfer warmth, love, comfort through touch alone. His tongue darts out to catch her tears, salt and sorrow burning his mouth. Her hands find his coat blindly, and he whines low in his throat. Even now, even broken, she seeks him out. Nana catches up, breathless, helping Juliet to her feet. Together, they guide her inside. Juliet, what's going on? Her Nana implores. Talk to me. I saw him, Juliet whispers, her voice cracking. At the market. Flynn. Every muscle in his body goes rigid. He was exactly how I remembered, except... A sob tears from her throat. You should have seen how he looked at me, like he could barely remember who I was. Even his sister seemed happier to see me. Something dark rises in Flynn's chest. How dare he? The fragments of memory crystallize, his pack turning against him, following orders from a man who looked like him, smelled like him, spoke with his voice. His own cousin, his best friend. Cade. Was stealing everything from Flynn not enough? Why did he have to go and hurt the person he loved most in the world? The one suffering the most from Cade's betrayal. His mate, his Juliet. A growl builds in his throat, low and deadly. He could have accepted it, maybe. Cade stealing his place as alpha. But this... Juliet's fingers find his fur, burying her face against him as fresh tears fall. This, Flynn cannot forgive. Cade didn't just steal his life. He hurt Flynn's mate, made her question their bond, made her cry. The wolf in him rises, bloodthirsty and vengeful. Images flash through his mind. Cade's throat between his jaws. Blood on cobblestones. His cousin's dying screams. He'll kill Cade for this, before the incomplete bond takes his life, before Cade can hurt Juliet again. He'll paint the streets red with his cousin's blood. Chapter 12. Cade. Alpha? Cade tenses. Even after 6 months, the title still feels wrong in his mouth, like wearing another man's skin. Which of course he is. The Western Territory dispute needs your attention, the beta continues from the doorway of Flynn's, his office. And the council is waiting for your decision about... Later. Cade waves him off with Flynn's hand, watching the motion, how the fingers bend, the shape of the gesture. Flynn would have done it better. Effortlessly. Everything about Flynn came effortlessly. At 17, he breezed through training, while Cade scrambled to keep up. Where Cade strained, Flynn flowed. Graceful, powerful, endlessly charismatic. Born to lead. "It's 'cause you're overthinking it," Flynn would say, helping Cade up after a sparring match. No teasing, just kindness, which somehow made it worse. Always the golden boy, always better. "Brother." Lyra's voice cuts through his thoughts. She lounges across from him, eyes sharp. "You've been quiet since the market. Actually, no, you've been quiet for months. I should have known. It's because of her, isn't it? Juliet?" Cade's fingers tighten on the desk. Lyra had followed him back to his office after the encounter, full of questions he had no intention of answering. "I don't want to discuss it," he says. "I didn't think you'd stop seeing her," Lyra murmurs. "Flynn, is that wise? Are you okay?" He frowns. Why wouldn't he be? The question makes him want to sneer, but Flynn wouldn't. Flynn never mocked. "It's for the best, don't you think?" He deflects. Lyra doesn't answer right away. "You were cruel to her," she says softly. "You didn't have to be so." "I was clear," Cade snaps, his stomach churning. The way Juliet had looked at him at the market, hopeful, confused, it unsettled him. "Flynn, this isn't like you," Lyra presses. "I'm worried. You seemed happier when you were with Juliet. Do you remember?" He remembers. Remembers Flynn, distracted and disappearing for days while Cade handled the messes. Council meetings, territory disputes. All the responsibilities Flynn was born to manage, but no longer cared about. "Cover for me?" Flynn would ask, halfway out the door. And Cade would, grinding his teeth, doing the job better than Flynn ever had. He deserved more than scraps. He deserved answers. One night, after yet another meeting Flynn had skipped, Cade cornered him with Wolfsbane wine in hand. "You and I need to talk," he said, passing the bottle over. "You've got to give me something." Flynn gave him that apologetic smile, always charming, always forgiven. "I've been awful company lately, huh?" "Let's have a drink," Cade suggested. "I shouldn't. I've got to go." Flynn glanced toward the trees, like something out there was calling him. "Just one," Cade pressed. "Humor me while I prep for your meeting tomorrow." Guilt did the trick. Flynn stayed. 3 bottles later, and he sprawled beside Cade, golden curls wild and cheeks flushed. If there was one thing he was better at than his perfect cousin, it was holding his drink. So Cade kept the wine flowing, watching Flynn's careful walls crumble like sand castles. "Met someone," he slurred, eyes dreamy, distant. "Have you?" Cade replied casually, while disgust churned in his gut. Deserting the pack, abandoning his duties, all for some girl? Pathetic. She's everything, Cade." Flynn's voice held such wonder it made Cade nauseous. "First time I saw her, the whole world just stopped." Flynn drills on, like everything before her was in black and white. "Right." Cade's voice stayed gentle while his fingers threatened to crack the bottle. "Go on." "Works at the Children's Hospital, pediatric nurse." Flynn's face softened into an expression of pure adoration. She's like sunlight, you know. The way she moves, the way she cares for people. And she smells like honey in summer rain. Cade's blood turned to ice as realization struck. Cousin, are you saying your conquest is human? Thankfully, Flynn was too far gone to notice the venom in his voice. Not a conquest, he protested. She's my entire life, my reason for breathing. Cade thought he might vomit. More wine? He interrupted, pouring it before Flynn could say more. The latter gulped it down enthusiastically. Did I tell you? She's teaching me to bake. His eyes went unfocused. She makes me want to be better, different, free. Something sparked in Cade's chest at that last word. Flynn wanted to be free? Wait a minute. Could this, somehow, work out in his favor? What about the pack? He pressed, though barely containing his excitement now. If Flynn left, if Flynn actually left, he could finally take his rightful place. Your human can't possibly live amongst us, Cade says carefully. I know. Flynn sighs heavily, reaching for more wine and gulping it down like water. Cade's pulse quickens. So you'll give her up? He prods gently. Flynn shakes his head with such force he nearly tips over. I can't give her up, Cade. His voice cracks. I just can't. I have to be with her. A smile curves Cade's lips before he can stop it. So you'd leave then? Abandon the pack? He pours Flynn more wine with trembling fingers. But what about your responsibilities? This is it. Flynn will name him as his successor. Who else could it be? Who else has trained beside him, supported him, and covered for him all these years? I'm giving those to Lyra. Flynn waves carelessly, spilling wine across his shirt. She'll be better at it than me, than either of us. The wine bottle shattered in Cade's grip. Lyra! What? He hissed. Meant to tell you, Flynn mumbled. Haven't even told her. She'll be so surprised. Flynn slumped, trying to look serious. I've been watching her, you know. She sees what matters. No more dumb old rules. No more pointless territory fights. Blood trickled from Cade's palm. Flynn didn't notice. She's what the pack needs. Fresh blood, new ideas, not me. Then, spreading his arms wide, Flynn gazed at the sky. And I'll be free. Just Juliet and me. The urge to wrap his hands around his cousin's throat is nearly overwhelming. Think I need... Flynn's words fade as his eyes close. Need to tell Juliet. Tell her everything. His head lolls to the side as consciousness finally slips away. Brother? Lyra's voice pulls him back. Where did you go? Cade forces Flynn's face into a neutral expression. Nowhere. Lyra gives him a thoughtful look. This isn't right, she says, shaking her head. Juliet is your mate, Flynn. You shouldn't have to choose between her and the pack. She drolls on, but Cade barely listens, ice sliding down his spine because... Mate, the human is Flynn's fated mate? Fuck. Of course. How had he not realized? The way Flynn talked about her, the intensity of his devotion. No wonder he'd escape only to run off to her. No wonder he hadn't tried to fight for the pack. He couldn't. He was stuck by his mate's side, unable to complete their bond. I'm going to speak to the council on your behalf. Don't even try to stop me. Lyra rambles, making Cade freeze. Speak to the... Cade sits forward. What exactly do you mean? That I'll fight for you, of course, Lyra replies passionately. Juliet is your mate. The pack will understand. I'll help you. No. The word comes out sharper than Flynn's voice should ever be. Leave it alone. But he can read the stubborn set of her jaw. She won't leave it alone. She'll tell the pack about Juliet, and they'll expect Flynn, expect him to claim her. When they realize another wolf has been living with Juliet this whole time, they'll expect him to go ballistic. Cade rises, moving to the window. In Flynn's reflection, he sees his own ambition staring back. He's been too soft, too sentimental about his cousin. The time has come to end this, and Juliet will be the key. After all, a mate bond goes both ways. What Flynn feels, she feels. What hurts her. His lips curve into a smile that looks wrong on Flynn's face. "You're right," he tells Lyra, who straightens in surprise. "I've been handling this. Poorly." "You have?" A range of formal pack gathering. He turns to face her, already seeing the pieces align. "It's time I officially addressed the matter of my mate."
Chapter 13. Juliet. Juliet's face feels raw from crying. Only the wolf's weight, warm and solid against her, keeps her tethered to the world. She strokes his fur absently, grounding herself in the slow rise and fall of his massive ribcage, one of the only things that still feels real. "I know love at first sight doesn't exist," she murmurs. "Because you can't really love someone if you don't know them. But that's the thing." Her voice catches. The second I met Flynn, it was like I'd known him forever. The wolf shifts, pressing closer. "We met at the mall," she says, eyes fluttering shut as the memory surfaces. Sounds so ordinary, doesn't it? But it hadn't been ordinary, not at all. She remembers checking her watch, rushing to grab coffee. The mall was packed with holiday shoppers, Christmas music echoing faintly over the speakers. Then she saw him. He was coming up the escalator while she was riding down, blonde hair catching the overhead lights, the sharp line of his jaw, the way he held himself. It stopped her heart. Ridiculous, she'd thought. Just a stranger. But she couldn't look away. As they passed, he looked up, and their eyes locked. Everything else fell away, the noise, the crowd, time itself. His eyes widened, lips parted in surprise, and then, gone. They passed, and she felt this strange, hollow ache, like she'd lost something she never had. Don't turn around, she told herself. That would be crazy. But she did. He was already staring back, frozen on the escalator, ignoring the annoyed glances of people moving around him. And then he jumped. Vaulted the rail like it was nothing, and slid down the metal divider, never breaking eye contact. There was a collective gasp. A security guard shouted. But he landed in front of her, breathless, grinning like he'd found something he hadn't known he was looking for. "Hello?" he said simply. She couldn't speak. Up close, he was even more stunning. Flecks of gray in his eyes, stubble along his jaw, a small scar above his right eyebrow. "Can I buy you coffee?" he asked, voice low and warm. There was hope in it, a little awe, a little desperation. I have to get back to work," she'd stammered, and instantly regretted it when his face fell. "Where?" he asked. "What do you do?" "I'm a nurse." His whole expression changed, softened. "You're wonderful," he said with so much sincerity it made her blush. "I should really—" She motioned vaguely behind her, overwhelmed. "Oh, right, of course." His disappointment was crushing. "Sorry, I didn't mean to." He stepped beside her, his hand brushing hers. "I'll walk you." He'd bought her flowers at every shop they passed, daisies, wildflowers, anything he could grab. By the time they reached the hospital, her arms were full of them. "I'll wait here," he said, gesturing to a bench near the entrance, "for your shift to end." "That's 8 hours from now," she laughed, thinking he was joking. But he wasn't. "I'll wait as long as it takes," he said, and somehow she knew he didn't just mean her shift. "Why?" she asked, bewildered. He studied her for a long moment, then said quietly, "Because you're the most important thing that's ever happened to me." Juliet smiles sadly, fingers curled in the wolf's fur. "He was like that from the beginning," she whispers, "so focused, so sure, like making me happy was his purpose." Juliet's smile falters. Her thoughts turn to the market, the coldness in Flynn's eyes. "I knew it was too good to be true," she whispers, You should have seen him. She trails off. The doorbell chimes downstairs, faint and distant. She barely notices. I guess it was all just a dream, wasn't it? She murmurs, burying her face in the wolf's fur. He was never real. Whatever his reason was for being so intense, it probably had nothing to do with me. The wolf lets out a wounded whine and nudges her, pressing closer as if to contradict her. She pulls back, startled by the emotion in his amber eyes, something almost human. Sometimes, she whispers, when you look at me like that, it reminds me of... The wolf goes completely still, those eyes widening almost imperceptibly. Juliet! Nana's voice calls from downstairs, sharp and urgent. Come down here, right now! Juliet sighs. I should see what she wants. She starts to move, but the wolf growls, low, warning. He rises, hackles raised. Hey, it's okay, she soothes. I'll be right back. He lunges in front of her, blocking the door, growl deepening to something fierce, protective. What's gotten into you? She asks, frowning. I'm just going downstairs. Juliet, Nana calls again, louder. You need to come down, now. I have to go, she whispers to the wolf. Stay here, please. He lets out a helpless, frustrated howl as she slips past him. At the bottom of the stairs, Juliet stops. Standing in the doorway, framed by afternoon light, is Flynn. Same golden hair, same favorite charcoal sweater, a bouquet of crimson roses in his hands. His blue eyes find hers. Hello, Juliet, he says, and he smiles.
Chapter 14. Flynn. Flynn stalks down the stairs, claws clicking against polished wood. Every sense is sharp, his vision narrows, and his hearing hones. Every muscle is coiled tight. The scent hits first. His scent, but wrong, warped, familiar and rotten. Rage curls low in his gut. And then he sees him. The thief, the imposter. Cade. Standing in Juliet's doorway, wearing his face, holding roses in the exact crimson shade Flynn used to bring her. His smile, Flynn's smile, sits falsely on lips that don't deserve it. I thought we should talk, Cade says. Flynn growls, low and guttural, the sound rattling in his chest. Then Cade reaches for her, touches her. Flynn's hand on his Juliet, his mate, and she doesn't pull away. Why doesn't she pull away? Can't you see it's not me? His growl deepens, desperate and guttural, but to human ears, it's meaningless. Juliet glances at Cade, lashes low, shy smile flickering. That look. It used to be his. Mine, Flynn thinks savagely. Mine. Mine. Red creeps into the edges of his vision. The wolf rises, demanding violence, demanding blood. Only the thought of Juliet, what she'd feel if he acted, keeps him from lunging. Talk about what? She asks, voice soft, fragile. Flynn feels it through their fractured bond, her grief, her confusion, her need. About us, Cade says. Flynn stills, ears pricked. You said we were over, Juliet murmurs, a trembling note of hope in her voice. I thought it had to be, Cade replies, faking regret. But maybe I was wrong. Flynn's claws dig deep into the hardwood floor. Liar. Juliet's emotions crash over him, longing, pain, hope. It matches the war inside him. She wants to believe this, wants it to be true. Then, well, isn't that convenient? Nana snaps. Break her heart, vanish, then show up with flowers when it suits you? Too little, too late. Flynn could kiss her. Nana, Juliet says, half reprimanding, half defensive. Kick him out, Flynn begs silently. Send him away. Can't you feel the wrongness? That's not me. No, she's right, Cade says with a wounded sigh. Flynn's hatred crystallizes. Every word out of his mouth is a performance, a twisted mirror of Flynn's life. His whole body trembles with the effort of restraint. He's never known this kind of hatred. Not until Cade took everything. I messed up, Juliet. I'm sorry. There's no excuse, but I want to explain about why I had to lie, about everything. Juliet's breath hitches. He feels her breaking, hears her heart screaming for closure. Please, let me take you to dinner. Just once. I'll tell you everything. And if you want nothing to do with me after... Okay, Juliet says, barely above a whisper. Yeah, okay, let's grab dinner. Flynn snaps. The world narrows to a single beat, the pulse in Cade's throat. Flynn lunges with a roar, his massive body surging through the air. He hears Juliet scream, Nana curse, but it's distant, irrelevant. All that matters is the kill. His jaws close on fabric. Cade's eyes, Flynn's own traitorous eyes, widen in fear as they crash to the floor. Good. Let him be afraid. Let him know. Jesus Christ, Cade shouts, throwing up an arm. Flynn's teeth sink into flesh. Blood floods his mouth. He barely registers Cade's scream, barely notices the punch to his ribs. Pain is nothing. His claws rake down Cade's side. Juliet, get to your room, Nana shouts. Flynn doesn't care. Let them run. Let them hide. This ends now. He pins Cade down. One bite. One snap of his jaw. That's all it would take. One bite and Juliet is safe. Stop! Juliet's scream cuts through the haze like a blade. The sheer terror in her voice halts him mid-strike. Please, she sobs. Please don't. Flynn freezes. Her fear. It's of him. That realization punches through his rage. That's it, she says softly. Easy now. It's okay. She steps closer, slowly, hand outstretched. Come here, she whispers, dropping to her knees. Come to me. The scent of her, lavender, honey, home, cuts through the fog. He backs away from Cade, drawn to her. Her hand strokes his head, fingers in his fur, and he leans into it, clinging to the calm she offers. You're okay, she whispers. You're okay. Flynn breathes her in. She sees him, she knows. And then sharp pain. A syringe plunges into his flank. He jerks away, eyes flashing in betrayal. Juliet gasps. That should... She starts before Nana appears beside her, jabbing a second needle into his shoulder. Nana, no, that's too much, Juliet shouts. You'll hurt him. The sedative hits fast. His limbs falter. The room tilts. He stumbles, crashing to the floor. Juliet's tear-streaked face swims above him, mouth moving, eyes wide with horror. You drugged me, he tries to say. You chose him. But all that comes is a whimper. And guilt. Overwhelming, suffocating guilt. He scared her. He made his mate cry. He deserves this betrayal. He's been a terrible mate. He couldn't protect her from anything. Not from heartbreak, not from fear, not from himself. Forgive me, he wants to say. I'm sorry, Juliet. You deserve better. Everything fades. Her face is the last thing he sees. Then, nothing.
Chapter 15, Juliet. Juliet's hands won't stop shaking. She stares at the massive wolf sprawled across her living room floor, its chest rising and falling in the slow rhythm of drugged sleep. Blood, Flynn's blood, stains its muzzle. Flynn came back. Flynn wants to explain, and the wolf, her wolf, attacked him like a creature possessed. She can still hear the savage growls, still see the way it lunged for Flynn's throat. The sounds of their struggle echo in her mind, drowning out whatever Nana is saying beside her. Just asleep. She catches the end of her grandmother's assurance. Juliet nods numbly, guilt and uneasiness twisting her gut. She doesn't like seeing her wolf like this. She drops to her knees beside him, fingers sinking into his thick fur. Why would he attack Flynn so savagely? The question circles her mind like a trapped bird. Had he understood somehow that Flynn had hurt her? "Yes," she whispers, stroking the wolf's head. "You were just trying to protect me." It makes a strange kind of sense. The wolf had been by her side through all the heartbreak, had seen her at her lowest. It was protective, that's all. "He's going to be okay, sweetie," Nana tells her again, hovering anxiously. "He's just asleep." "Juliet?" Flynn's voice pulls her attention away from the wolf. He's getting to his feet slowly, warily, one hand pressed to his bleeding arm. She'd almost forgotten he was here. "Do you have any more of those syringes?" he asks Nana, his gaze never leaving Juliet. "Yes," her grandmother answers, brandishing another one from her pocket with a grim satisfaction that makes Juliet uneasy. "Good." Flynn takes it, and to Juliet's shock, plunges it into the wolf's already unconscious body. "What are you doing?" she protests, lunging forward. "He's already unconscious. This is too much. You'll hurt him." Flynn's hand on her arm stops her. "This isn't a normal wolf," he says sharply. "He'll need to be injected frequently if he's to be kept asleep." Juliet shakes her head in confusion. "What do you mean he's not a normal wolf?" "Yes. What exactly do you mean?" Nana echoes, her tone openly suspicious. She hasn't stopped glaring at Flynn since he arrived, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. Flynn sighs, rubbing his wounded arm. "I'd like to speak with Juliet," he tells Nana, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Tough shit," Nan replies. "Grandma," Juliet protests. C turns to her, face softening with concern. "I don't trust that man, Juliet. You shouldn't either." Juliet bites her lip, caught in the crossfire of their glares. She looks at Flynn, at the wolf, at her grandmother. Everything is upside down. Nothing makes sense. "I don't understand any of this," she whispers, her voice breaking. "I'll tell you everything, I swear." Flynn's voice drops lower, but only to you. Juliet swallows hard. Despite everything, despite the way he crushed her heart at the market, she needs to know. "It's fine," she tells her grandmother. "I'll hear him out." Nana sighs, shoulders dropping in defeat. She shoots Flynn one last venomous look before leaving the room, her footsteps heavy with reluctance. In the sudden quiet, Juliet becomes acutely aware of Flynn's presence. He's exactly as she remembers, tall, golden-haired, impossibly handsome. And yet... "What's going on?" she asks. "Why did you leave? Why did you come back?" Flynn exhales slowly. "It's complicated. There's a lot you don't know." "Then tell me," Juliet says, her patience fraying. Flynn snorts, lowering himself into the armchair across from her. There's something off about him, something different about the way he speaks, the way he holds himself, the way he looks at her. Had she been remembering him through rose-colored glasses? Had he always had this calculating look in his eyes? "Juliet," he says finally, "the truth is, I haven't been honest with you." Her mind flashes to their last conversation, the night he disappeared. Flynn's slurred voice on the phone. "I didn't mean to lie. I wanted to tell you, but I don't want you to be scared of me." "You said you would explain everything," she reminds him, throat tight. There's no easy way to say this. Flynn looks contrite, but something about his expression doesn't ring true. She knows how Flynn sounds when he's truly sorry, like he did on the phone that night. He doesn't sound like that now. Something in her mind tries to warn her, but his next words drive all other thoughts away. "I'm not human, Juliet." She freezes, staring at him. "Is this a joke?" she asks, incredulous. "Flynn, this isn't the time to—" "I'm a shifter," he interrupts, his tone stern, firm. Juliet blinks at him. I don't know what that means. It means I'm both human and wolf. He watches her carefully. I can turn into a wolf at will. It's not just a physical transformation. The wolf is part of me. I'm as much a wolf as I am a man. Her eyes dart involuntarily to the wolf on the floor, his massive body completely still except for the slow rise and fall of his breathing. Yes, Flynn confirms, following her gaze. He's a shifter, too. Juliet gapes in shock. This can't be true. But even as she denies it, her mind races ahead, piecing things together. It would explain so much. Why the wolf seems so intelligent, why he responds to her words like he understands them. I am the alpha of my pack, Flynn continues, a note of pride entering his voice. Juliet doesn't know what that means, but she remembers Flynn saying something similar over the phone while he was drunk, that he was an alpha. And he, Flynn adds, pointing to the unconscious wolf, is my beta, my cousin Cade. I thought I could trust him, but he was always jealous of me, coveting my title. He betrayed me, tried to turn the pack against me. The room tilts slightly. Juliet steadies herself on the back of the couch, mind reeling. This wolf, who she'd slept beside and hugged, who had licked away her tears and watched over her for months. It was a man all along? Heat floods her face as she thinks of all the times he'd seen her naked. And not only is he a person, but he tried to hurt Flynn? It's why I kept away from you, Flynn explains, his expression softening. I tried to have him arrested, but he escaped. I was worried if he learned about you, how you are my mate. This again, Juliet exclaims, her attention snapping back to Flynn. Mate? He'd said that before, too, how she was his mate. He'd said it in fits of passion. He'd said it again when he was nearly incoherent with drink. What does it mean? She asks, meeting Flynn's gaze, feeling like this is important. Flynn leans forward, his eyes intent on hers. It means you're mine, Juliet. His voice drops, intimate and intense. For my kind, mates are sacred. When a shifter finds their mate, it's not a choice, it's destiny. Something about his words makes her skin prickle, though she can't say why. The bond forms instantly, he continues. The moment I saw you, something inside me recognized you, called to you. Did you feel ID too, that pull? Juliet nods slowly, remembering the inexplicable connection she'd felt, the way her heart had seemed to recognize him before her mind could catch up. That's the mate bond, Flynn explains. It's biological, spiritual, magical, all of those things. It means we're meant for each other, two halves of a whole. But you left, Juliet whispers, pain lancing through her chest at the memory. Because of him. Flynn gestures to the wolf. Cade wanted what was mine, my position, my power. When he learned about you, he saw another way to hurt me. Juliet's gaze drifts back to the wolf, to Cade, if Flynn is to be believed. I didn't want to leave, Flynn insists, reaching for her hand. But I had to protect you from pack politics, from Cade's jealousy. His thumb strokes over her knuckles in a gesture that should be comforting. Instead, uneasiness crawls up her spine. Prove it, she says suddenly, the words escaping before she can reconsider. Flynn blinks. What? Prove it, Juliet repeats more firmly this time. Turn into a wolf. Right now. Flynn tenses, his eyes darting to the unconscious wolf, to Cade, his jaw clenching tight. Not here, he says, voice strained. We're amongst humans. We keep hidden for a reason, Juliet. Humans cannot know about our existence. It's why I didn't tell you what I was. It's why I asked your grandmother to leave. Juliet nods slowly. She supposes this makes sense. She doesn't know how the world would react to learning some people are half wolves, half men. But I need to see it, she insists, so that I can believe it. Then come with me. Flynn grabs her hand. Let me take you to my pack, to meet my people, to Lyra. I'll introduce you as my mate. You'll see I'm telling the truth." He smiles, enthusiasm lighting his features. He looks so much like himself in that moment, the Flynn she fell for. "Juliet," he says softly, "let's not be apart again. We belong together." Then he turns toward the wolf, his expression hardening. "And this traitor needs to be returned home." Juliet tenses at that, at the way he says the word traitor, with such cold hatred. "What are you planning to do to him?" she asks, alarm rising in her chest. "You're not going to hurt him? Are you, Flynn?" He blinks at her. "He betrayed me, Juliet," he replies, eyes darkening. "He tried to use you against me, to threaten you." "No," Juliet wants to say, shaking her head. That is not what this had been about. The wolf cared about her. She could tell. "He's my friend, Flynn," she protests. "Promise me you won't hurt him." Flynn looks furious for a brief moment, something cold and alien flashing in his eyes. Then it's gone in a flash, replaced by a smile that doesn't quite reach those eyes. "Come with me back home," he tells her, extending his hand. "I promise, everything will be fine." Juliet hesitates. She doesn't know if this is what she wants anymore. After everything, seeing Flynn again doesn't feel like it should. It's like she still loves his memory, but not the man in front of her. But then her eyes fall on the wolf, asleep and vulnerable. She thinks of Flynn's anger when he spoke of him, of how he'd plunged in another syringe to make sure he wouldn't wake up. She thinks of the wolf licking her tears, jumping to defend her. And then she thinks of Flynn saying he'd be punished, and her heart drops. No. She has to make Flynn see reason, get him to forgive her wolf somehow. "Okay," she says, taking his hand. "Yes, I'll come with you." Chapter 16. Nana. Nana watches from the porch as Juliet drives off with her good-for-nothing ex-boyfriend and the unconscious wolf in the back seat. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like it one bit. "Shifters," she mutters, clutching her cardigan around her shoulders. "Yeah, right, and I'm the Queen of England." This whole business about wolves, because of course she'd been listening at the door. What did those idiots think, that she'd go to her room to knit instead? As if. Anna Barnes wasn't born yesterday. Still, the wolf story doesn't make a lick of sense. But then again, neither does the wolf who's been living with them. Nana spent 20 years as a veterinarian before retirement. She knows animals, and that wolf is way too intelligent. The way he watches Juliet, the way he seems to understand conversations, not normal. Not normal at all. Juliet, her precious grandchild, has gone off with the man who crushed her spirit, and Nana has a bad, bad feeling. "Not on my watch," she declares to the empty porch. When she sees a taxi cruise down their quiet street, she thinks, now this is fate. Nana practically leaps down the steps, as much as her 70-year-old knees allow leaping, and waves both arms frantically. "Hey, hey!" The taxi screeches to a stop. She yanks open the back door and climbs in with surprising agility. "Just follow that car." She points wildly at the receding taillights of Juliet's sedan, then shoves a $20 bill at the driver. The driver, a middle-aged man with a spectacular mustache, glances at her in the rearview mirror. "Ma'am, this isn't a movie." Without a word, Nana slaps another 20 into his palm. The man sighs, and then they're off, the taxi lurching forward with enough force to press Nana back against the seat. "Faster!" she urges, peering through the windshield. "We can't lose them." "Lady, there are speed limits." Nana digs in her purse and produces another 20. The driver's eyebrows climb toward his hairline, but his foot presses heavier on the gas pedal. "You want to tell me why we're chasing after that car?" Nana narrows her eyes. "Would you believe me if I said my granddaughter was eloping with a werewolf?" The driver barks out a laugh. "Lady, in this town? I'd believe just about anything." "Good," Nana says grimly, fishing out her old veterinary tranquilizer gun from her oversized purse. "Because I have a feeling things are about to get weird." Chapter 17, Juliet. Gravel crunches beneath the tires as Flynn turns the car down a winding private drive. Towering pines line both sides, creating a natural tunnel that opens suddenly into a vast clearing. Juliet gasps. Before them stands what can only be described as an estate, a sprawling mansion of timber and stone, 3 stories high with floor-to-ceiling windows that catch the afternoon sun. Meticulously landscaped gardens surround it, and beyond, the forest stretches endlessly in all directions. "This is where you live?" she asks, unable to keep the awe from her voice. Flynn nods, though his eyes seem distant, focused on something else. He parks in front of the imposing entrance and is barely out of the car when a young woman hurries through the massive front doors. Lyra, Juliet recognizes. "Is everyone gathered?" Flynn asks her as she approaches. "Yes, like you asked." Lyra's gaze finds Juliet, and her face breaks into a warm smile. "Welcome, Juliet." Juliet returns the smile, though more hesitantly. Everything is happening so fast, too fast. The wolf, Cade, lies unconscious in the back seat, and her heart twists with worry. "Get someone to carry Cade out of the car," Flynn tells Lyra. "Make sure he's locked up and sedated." "Cade?" Lyra's eyes widen in surprise. "You found him?" The grim expression on Flynn's face sends a chill down Juliet's spine. "Please don't hurt him," she says, eyes darting between Flynn and Lyra. "He's been good to me, he's—" "Juliet, you don't know what he's done," Lyra interrupts, her voice somber. "First trying to impersonate Flynn, then coming near you." Juliet shakes her head, confused. Everything feels wrong, twisted. "Lyra, why don't you catch Juliet up briefly?" Flynn suggests, his tone softening. "While I deal with Cade?" As if summoned by his words, men begin emerging from the house, all tall and powerfully built like Flynn, moving with the same predatory grace. They approach with heads slightly bowed. "Alpha," one of them says, and Juliet realizes they're all bowing to him, like he's some sort of king. "Who's she?" another asks, giving Juliet a suspicious glance. "Come with me," Lyra says, taking Juliet's arm gently but firmly. She pulls Juliet toward the house, ignoring her protests. Through the massive entrance they go, into a foyer with soaring ceilings and a grand staircase. Under different circumstances, Juliet would be in awe, but all she can think about is the wolf, Cade, and what might be happening to him. "Please," she tells Lyra as they enter what appears to be a sitting room. "I don't understand everything, I know that. But Cade is my friend, he—" "Juliet, listen to me." Lyra's voice drops. "I know this must be overwhelming. Did Flynn just tell you about the bond?" Juliet nods, her eyes darting to the window, where she can see Flynn giving orders as different men carry Cade's unconscious form away from the car. "He did," she confirms. "Where are they taking him?" Lyra gives her a curious look. "Juliet, look," she says with a deep breath. "You are Flynn's mate, and Cade knows it. What he did, coming to you, hiding with you, that's nothing short of treason in our world. Especially given what he tried doing to Flynn." "What did he do?" Juliet asks, meeting Lyra's eyes directly. Something about the younger woman makes Juliet feel she can trust her. Unlike her brother, who seems distant and cold since his return, Lyra's concern feels genuine. "Flynn should be the one to explain," Lyra says, biting her lip, "but I guess he's more focused on ensuring your safety right now." "Please," Juliet grabs her arm, tell me everything." Lyra sighs, gesturing for Juliet to sit on one of the plush couches. She perches beside her, tucking one leg beneath her. "Everything I'm about to tell you," she begins, "I heard from Flynn after it happened." She meets Juliet's eyes. 6 months ago, Flynn told me about you. Said he'd found his mate, a human. He was overjoyed, Juliet. It's important you know that. I'd never seen him so happy. Juliet's heart clenches at the memory of their whirlwind romance, at how Flynn had looked at her like she hung the moon and stars. The bond between mates, Lyra continues. It's powerful, instinctual, like a pull you can't resist, but your situation was complicated because you're human. She leans closer, her expression serious. You should know, it's dangerous for humans to be near us. A bite from a shifter would kill you. It would set off a transformation your body couldn't survive. And because some of us have trouble controlling our instincts, one incident would be enough. So Flynn knew being with you meant leaving the pack. Juliet remembers their last conversation, Flynn's slurred voice on the phone. I'm gonna leave the pack. For you, all for you. Is that why he said he wanted to leave? She asks quietly. Lyra looks surprised, eyes widening. He'd said that to you? Juliet nods. It's what I thought, Lyra says, a smile briefly lighting her features. That he would leave. Choose you. Her expression darkens. He must have told Cade, which is when Cade acted. What do you mean? Lyra takes a deep breath. One night, a wolf that looked like Flynn arrived and attacked him, aiming for the kill. He was so powerful he almost succeeded, which was shocking because Flynn is the alpha, the strongest, most dominant wolf. I and other warriors from the pack jumped in to protect him. Together we captured the attacker. That's when Flynn realized he wasn't able to shift back into human form, she continues. It's like he'd lost the ability. How? Juliet asks, confused. Is that possible? Normally no, Lyra explains, but Cade used dark magic, forbidden magic. Juliet stares at her, trying to process this new information. Dark magic? Lyra nods grimly. Flynn, being able to communicate with his now restrained attacker, learned the truth. The attacker was none other than his best friend and cousin, Cade. The news broke Flynn's heart. She shakes her head sadly. For some reason, Flynn always loved Cade, even though it was obvious Cade was always envious of him. Anyway, Cade, knowing Flynn was about to leave, somehow found a way to contact a dark magician. Now there are dark magicians? Juliet rubs her temples, feeling overwhelmed. Are there light magicians too? Not that I know of, Lyra says with a small smile. This magician apparently has the power to grant any wish, but for a price. He granted Cade's wish to take Flynn's place as Alpha once Flynn was gone. Cade thought he'd be able to pass as Flynn without any of us knowing. How would you not know? Juliet asks, confused. Because when we leave the pack, it's forever, Lyra explains. This is pack law. If Flynn were to join you and live amongst humans, he could never return. Juliet sits back, stunned by the idea that Flynn had been willing to leave his entire world behind for her. And he was going to do it? She asks, tears gathering in her eyes. Yes, Lyra says simply. But then, Cade made his wish and somehow gained the ability to control Flynn's transformation. When Cade is in wolf form, Flynn is human. But when Cade turns human, only then does Flynn become a wolf. Which hasn't happened since Cade made his wish. He's been living as Flynn's wolf, his most powerful form. He's always been obsessed with power. She continues. Luckily, Flynn was still here when it happened. He stopped Cade and figured out the truth, but after a month, Cade escaped. We had no idea where he was. Lyra takes Juliet's hands in hers. But you have to understand, Juliet. He was clearly planning something. To use you against Flynn somehow. You're Flynn's biggest weakness. A memory surfaces, waking in the middle of the night to find Flynn in her bed, only to blink and see the wolf instead. She thought it was a dream, a hallucination born of grief and longing. But if what Lyra says is true... This is insane, Juliet whispers, feeling like she's caught in a whirlpool. Listen, Lyra says. Flynn plans to present you to the pack today, as his mate. This is huge, you understand? That means he's going to claim you in front of our entire pack. Claim me? Juliet echoes. Another memory surfaces, Flynn whispering against her skin on their last night together. One day, I'll claim you properly. Make you mine in every way. The claim will seal the bond, Lyra explains, tying your souls together forever. You'll be able to feel his emotions like he can read your own. Juliet thinks about this, confused. Feel his emotions? She always felt like she had some insight into Flynn's mind, like she could read him so easily. But then he'd disappeared, and now... I don't know, she says, grabbing her head in her hands. This is a lot, I understand. Lyra places a comforting hand on her shoulder. But know that Flynn is about to sacrifice a lot for you. He already has. What do you mean? Juliet asks. The bond between mates is powerful, he continues. For shifters, it's vital. Without it, we suffer. Physically, mentally. The longer we're separated from our mates, the worse it gets. Juliet thinks of Flynn's strange symptoms when they were together. The way he seemed to crave her touch, like it was vital. The way he'd collapse into sleep after they made love, like only her presence allowed him to finally rest. A bond has to be completed once it begins forming, Lyra explains, especially a fated one. If not, we shifters experience symptoms known as bonding sickness. A sickness, Juliet thinks. It all fits. It all makes a terrible, perfect sense. And yet, Flynn chose to pursue a relationship with you despite knowing the risk, Lyra continues. If he claims you, Juliet, and you choose to reject him, he won't survive it. Juliet mind drifts to her wolf again, on its own accord. If everything Flynn and Lyra say is true, then the creature she's come to love, to trust, to rely is a lie. But if that's the case, why does thinking about him now, sedated and helpless, fill her with such profound wrongness? And why, despite the perfect logic of Flynn and Lyra's explanation, does some small part of her whisper that something here isn't right? Please, don't reject him, Lyra implores. I know this is a lot, but you two are mates. Fated mates, even. You must have a lot of questions, but it will work out in the end, I promise. Juliet's mind whirls with it all. Flynn willing to die for her? Flynn dying if she were to reject him? Flynn being betrayed by his own family? And what about Cade? She asks, because she can't help it. Her thoughts keep drifting back to him. She needs to know. She knows he's done terrible things. She gets it. But she can't bring herself to hate him completely because he is her wolf, hers. He wouldn't hurt her. She knows this as surely as she knows she needs to breathe. They have a connection. Let's worry about him later, Lyra says. For now, Flynn is going to lock him up. Juliet blinks, not really listening, her mind on her wolf. It's like she knows something, deep down, but can't quite form the thought. A sharp knock at the door interrupts her racing thoughts. The Alpha is calling for you, Lady Lyra, someone says through the door. The human, too. Let's go, Lyra tells Juliet, squeezing her hand excitedly. You have a bond to complete. Juliet follows numbly, torn between the story she's just heard and the connection she feels to the wolf who's been her companion these past months. Between the Flynn who stands waiting for her now, after leaving her in the dark for so long, and the creature who comforted her when she was broken. She doesn't know what to do. Chapter 18, Juliet. Lyra leads Juliet through a maze of hallways, each more opulent than the last. The house is both beautiful and unsettling, high ceilings and dark wood, windows that let in too little light. Nothing feels warm, nothing feels like Flynn. They stop before a pair of massive double doors carved with intricate wolf motifs. Lyra squeezes her hand reassuringly. Ready? Before Juliet can answer, the doors swing open. The reception hall falls silent as she enters. Dozens of faces turn toward her, beautiful, fierce, unwelcoming. The room is packed with people who all seem cut from the same cloth as Flynn, tall, powerful, and dangerous. Their whispers fill the air like hissing steam. "A human?" someone murmurs. "Why is she here?" "Smells wrong." Juliet falters, but Lyra's hand at her back keeps her moving forward. Through the sea of hostile faces, her eyes find Flynn. He sits on what can only be described as a throne, an ornate chair elevated on a stone dais. His posture is stiff, regal, triumphant, in a way that makes Juliet stop in her tracks. His face, so beloved, seems carved from marble, cold, distant. Nothing like the man who slid down an escalator just to speak to her. "Brothers and sisters," he announces, his voice carrying effortlessly through the hall. "I've gathered you all here for an important declaration." His eyes slide to Juliet, appraising rather than loving. "You're all wondering why there is a human girl amongst us." He pauses dramatically, surveying the crowd. "This woman, Juliet Barnes, is my mate." Chaos erupts. Voices rise in shock and outrage. Faces contort with disgust. Someone shouts, "Abomination!" Another cries, "Our alpha with a human?" Lyra steps forward, her small frame somehow expanding with authority. "Silence!" Her command cuts through the noise like a blade. "Juliet is Flynn's fated mate. They are fated. Have you forgotten what that means?" The crowd quiets, shocked by her vehemence. The whispers turn uncertain, tinged with reluctant awe. "Thank you, sister," Flynn says, looking vaguely put out by her intervention. "It's true." He waves Juliet over with a single imperious finger. "Come here, Juliet." She walks toward him slowly, carefully, searching his eyes for something, anything, that feels like the Flynn she knows. His face remains unreadable, a perfect mask. She can't sense what he's thinking, can't feel him at all. "Juliet and I are fated," Flynn announces to the crowd, "and ever since I've met her, I've thought of nothing but her. My mind has been consumed with thoughts of this human girl to the point of pain." The words should be romantic, but his tone is cold, clinical. He speaks of her not as something precious, but as an impediment, a burden. "That is how my cousin was able to attack me," he continues. "It is why, lately, I haven't been the alpha you've all deserved." Angry murmurs rise again. Accusatory glances are thrown Juliet's way. She feels small, exposed, surrounded by predators. "Which is why I gathered you all here today." Juliet glances at Lyra, seeking reassurance. The blonde gives her an encouraging smile, but something uncertain flickers in her eyes. "So that you all may witness," Flynn continues, rising to his feet, "the sacrifice I'm willing to make for you all, for this pack." Lyra's face falls, her smile vanishing. "Juliet," Flynn says, turning to face her directly. "As this pack, my people are my witness. I cannot accept you as my mate. You are not fit to be with an alpha. And I cannot leave this pack who desperately needs me, not even for you." The words hit Juliet like physical blows. She stares at him, stupefied, as he continues in a formal, almost triumphant voice. "I, Flynn Wilder, Alpha of the Silver Moon Pack, reject you, Juliet, as my mate." The hall erupts again, but this time with approval, with relief, with vindication. "What?" Lyra exclaims, her shock evident. Juliet can only stare. Is that why he reached out to her? Why he came back after leaving her alone for so long? Why he insisted she come here to meet his family? Only to end things between them again? Only to break her heart in front of an audience? "Do you accept this rejection?" Flynn asks, and there's a strange glint in his eyes that Juliet can't interpret. And that's when she realizes what's felt wrong since Flynn's return. She can't make sense of him, can't tell what he thinks, why he does what he does, doesn't understand him, at all, ever. Whereas before she'd met a man she'd instantly fallen for. Their romance had been fast, all-consuming, too intense, unnatural perhaps, unnerving. It didn't make sense. No one understood it, not even Juliet. Why it felt the way it did despite only knowing Flynn for such a short time. Except now she realizes it felt that way because she could just tell. She could tell what type of man he was. She knew who he was, knew how he thought, guessed his emotions without him even having to phrase them, knew him inside and out without him having to speak. She never once doubted Flynn or their love, never asked too many questions because she didn't have to. She just knew Flynn, his thoughts, his heart, his love for her, like they were her own. Because they had a bond, a connection. But now? Do you accept my rejection? Flynn demands again, an edge to his voice, an anger like this is somehow vitally important to him. No, Juliet murmurs, the pieces finally clicking into place. The crowd's whispers grow louder. Flynn's face transforms with fury. What? He snaps. Juliet ignores him. He's angry, she can tell, but she isn't sure why, because she has no idea what this man is thinking. Because this man isn't Flynn. You're the cousin, she says quietly, the realization washing over her like ice water. Flynn's beautiful face twists into an angry snarl. What? He asks, stalking toward her. He grabs her arm, fingers digging in painfully. Listen to me, he hisses, low and urgent. If you don't accept this rejection, then the bond cannot be severed. You must help me sever the bond, Juliet. We can't be together. She snaps her arm away and takes a step back, confidence rising with her certainty. I will not be severing anything, she declares, meeting his eyes steadily. Flynn doesn't want that. Our bond is everything. She raises her chin. And you'd know that if you were Flynn, but you're not. You're Cade, aren't you? This time she says it loud enough to be heard despite the noisy crowd. Suddenly, everyone falls silent. Preposterous, the man, Cade, she's certain, exclaims. Is it? Juliet challenges. She turns, finding Lyra's wide, disbelieving eyes in the crowd. You said Flynn's cousin had tried to replace him, she says, addressing Lyra directly. That he'd managed to steal Flynn's wolf form, but you got it wrong. Her voice grows stronger with conviction. This man is Cade, and Flynn has been stuck in his wolf form. Her throat tightens as the full truth washes over her. Flynn is the one who's been staying with me all along. Images flood her mind, the wolf's amber eyes watching her with devotion, his head resting on her lap as she cried, his body curled protectively around hers at night. All the time she'd told him about Flynn, about her broken heart, and he'd listened with that sad, knowing gaze. He never left me, Juliet gasps, tears of joy streaming down her face. Enough! Cade explodes, grabbing her arms with bruising force. He drags Juliet toward the edge of the dais, displaying her to the crowd like a trophy. I've tried doing this the right way, the peaceful way, he announces, voice ringing with false nobility. But this bond with the human will be the death of me if I don't end it now. She will not understand, and it breaks my heart. But I cannot sacrifice you all for her sake. His eyes meet Juliet's, filled with such hatred and contempt she wonders how she ever thought he was Flynn. If she won't free me of this infliction by accepting to reject the bond, then... He pauses, letting the tension build. Then she shall be put to death. The crowd erupts in approval, faces transformed with bloodlust.
Chapter 19. Flynn. Silver moonlight filters through narrow basement windows, barely illuminating the chains binding Flynn to the concrete floor. The sedative pulses through his veins like molten lead, making every movement a struggle against his own body. His mind drifts, sluggish and unfocused. Juliet. Even her name sends waves of agony through him. He failed her. Failed to protect her from Cade. Failed as an alpha, as a shifter, as a mate. The realization burns worse than the silver-infused chains cutting into his flesh. The bond between them throbs like an open wound. Each passing minute away from her weakens him further, the separation sickness creeping through his system. He doesn't deserve her anyway. What kind of mate lurks in wolf form for months, unable to explain, unable to fully comfort, unable to protect? A noise outside the door. Flynn's ears twitch, but he lacks the strength to raise his head. Jesus H. Christ, comes an unfamiliar male voice. That's a giant wolf in there? Yes, Bob, Nana's voice replies matter-of-factly. We've established there are giant wolves everywhere around these premises. Now hurry up with those bolt cutters. The lock gives with a satisfying snap. I don't get paid enough for this, Bob mutters. That's why I'm giving you my retirement fund, Nana quips, kneeling beside Flynn with surprising agility. Can you understand me, Wolf? His eyes meet hers, recognition flickering. It's Juliet, she says, working on his chains with trembling hands. That man, Flynn, or whatever his name is, I think he's going to hurt her. I never trusted him, not since he came back. But you, she locks eyes with the wolf, you've protected her all these months. Bob stands awkwardly by the door, clutching bolt cutters like a shield. Lady, I've seen people turn into wolves today. There's not enough money in the world for this shit. Then help out of the goodness of your heart, Nana snaps, breaking the last chain. Flynn struggles to his feet, swaying dangerously, each breath labored. Then suddenly, a jolt of pure terror courses through him. Not his fear. Juliet's. The bond flares vividly, cutting through the drugged haze like lightning through fog. His mate is afraid. His mate is in danger. With a snarl that makes Bob leap back with a startled yelp, Flynn lunges past them both. His body fights the sedative, each step stronger than the last, as adrenaline and instinct override chemistry. Juliet, I'm coming. Hold on. He races through dark corridors, following the invisible thread binding him to his mate.
Chapter 20, Juliet. The hall falls silent after Cade's pronouncement. Juliet's heart hammers in her chest as he draws a gleaming silver blade from his belt, the metal catching the torchlight. This could have been easy, he says, voice eerily calm as he steps toward her. A simple rejection. That's all I needed. Stop this! Lyra suddenly lunges forward, inserting herself between them. Listen to me, all of you! She shouts to the crowd. Flynn would never harm his mate like this. We all know it. Can't you see? This man isn't my brother. We're all under some kind of curse. Rage twists Cade's features. He releases Juliet to grab Lyra, clamping his hand over her mouth. Guards, he barks. Two broad-shouldered men immediately step forward. Restrain her. They grip Lyra's arms as she struggles, eyes wild with fury. Cade snatches a cloth from one guard's belt and forces it between Lyra's teeth, silencing her cries. We'll deal with your treason later, sister. Cade spits, the last word dripping with contempt. He turns back to Juliet, composure returning like a mask sliding into place. One last chance, he says, softer now, almost gentle. The blade glints between them. Reject the bond. Free us both. No. Juliet stands taller, meeting his gaze without flinching. You don't want to spare me pain. You want to hurt Flynn. That's what this has always been about. His eyes narrow. I am Flynn. You think me such a fool that I can't recognize the man I love? Juliet counters, her voice ringing through the hall. The crowd shifts uneasily now, exchanging glances. Whispers ripple through the assembly, doubt spreading like ink in water. Juliet seizes the moment, turning to address them all. Listen to me, she pleads. I know bonds are sacred to you. I'm Flynn's mate. I know him in my soul. I can feel him, despite being human. She points at Cade, hand trembling but voice steady. This man isn't Flynn. I swear it on our bond. The whispering grows louder. Uncertainty paints their faces. Cade's patience snaps. He lunges forward, seizing a fistful of Juliet's hair, yanking her head back to expose her throat. The cold kiss of steel presses against her skin. You should have accepted the rejection, he hisses in her ear. Saved yourself. Despite the fear coursing through her veins, Juliet smiles. I don't need to save myself, she whispers. My mate will save me from you. You'll see. A snarl of pure rage escapes him, then abruptly cuts off at a sound from the entrance, a terrible, thunderous growl that seems to vibrate through the very stone beneath their feet. Every head turns. There, framed in the doorway, stands her wolf. Flynn. His silver coat is matted with blood, amber eyes burning with a fierce, primal hatred. His massive form seems to fill the entire entrance, a vision of savage grace and deadly promise. Cade shoves Juliet aside, sending her sprawling across the cold floor. Kill it, he commands, pointing at Flynn. No one moves. Flynn launches himself across the hall in a blur of silver, crashing into Cade with such force they both go down in a tangle of limbs. The knife clatters across stone as they roll, snarls and shouts of pain filling the air. Juliet scrambles to her feet, heart in her throat. Even from here she can see how Flynn's movements are sluggish, hampered by the sedative still coursing through his system. Each lunge costs him, each dodge comes a fraction too slow. Help your alpha, Cade screams at the stunned crowd. That beast is trying to kill me. Juliet whirls to face them, desperate. Your alpha is Flynn, she cries. The wolf. He's been cursed by dark magic, forced into this form. Please. Flynn pins Cade momentarily, jaws snapping inches from his throat, but Cade twists free with unnatural speed. He retrieves the knife, slashing across Flynn's shoulder. Blood blossoms across silver fur. Flynn! Juliet gasps, hands pressed to her mouth. The wolf doesn't falter. Doesn't even seem to feel the wound. His eyes are locked on his target with singular, terrifying focus. They circle each other in the center of the hall, predator versus predator. Cade feints left, slashes right. Flynn dodges, but barely, the sedative slowing him just enough for the blade to graze his flank. Warm blood pools on stone. Flynn's breaths come heavier now, sides heaving with the effort. He's going to kill him, Juliet whispers, horror rising in her throat. Please, she begs the crowd, help him. No one moves, no one dares. Cade lunges, blade arcing through the air, but this time Flynn doesn't retreat. He charges straight into the attack, a silver blur of fury and desperation. The knife plunges deep into his side, but Flynn's momentum carries them both down. His massive jaws clamp around Cade's throat with savage finality. Cade screams, the sound wet and gurgling. The knife twists deeper. Blood, so much blood, spreads across the floor, impossible to tell whose is whose. A terrible moment suspends, both enemies locked together in mutual destruction. Then, slowly, Cade's fingers release the knife. His arms fall to his sides. Flynn's jaws unclench, and he steps back, swaying dangerously. Cade collapses to the ground, gasping. Before their eyes, the stolen form begins to melt away, golden hair darkening to black, features shifting, reshaping until a stranger lies where Flynn's double once stood. Flynn! Juliet cries, rushing forward. The wolf's amber eyes find hers, filled with such love and relief it steals her breath. He takes an unsteady step toward her, then another, blood trailing in his wake. She throws her arms around his massive neck, burying her face in his fur. It's you, she sobs. It's really you. I should have known. Beneath her hands, she feels a strange vibration. The solid form of the wolf seems to ripple, to shift. Fur gives way to warm skin, the mass in her arms transforming until she's no longer holding a wolf, but a man. Flynn, her Flynn, gazes up at her with tear-filled blue eyes, exactly as she remembers. His hand, trembling but gentle, finds her cheek. "Juliet," he murmurs, voice hoarse from disuse. "I'm sorry." His thumb brushes away a tear. "For everything." The joy that floods her is almost painful in its intensity. "Don't you dare apologize," she whispers fiercely. "Not ever." His lips curve into a weak smile, and then his eyes flutter closed. His hand falls limply to his side. "Flynn?" Panic rises sharp and sudden. "Flynn?" Blood spreads beneath him, too much blood. The knife wound in his side is deep, ragged, and still bleeding freely. Juliet presses her hands over it, desperate to stem the flow, but it seeps between her fingers, hot and relentless. "Help!" she screams to the crowd. "Please, help him!" The hall erupts into chaos, but Juliet barely notices. Chapter 21, Juliet. In a quiet room at the back of the mansion, Juliet kneels beside the bed where Flynn lies motionless. Her hands, still stained with his blood, tremble as she brushes golden curls from his forehead. Though his breathing is steady now, he hasn't stirred since transforming back into his human form. "I don't understand," she says, watching as Lyra changes the bandage on Flynn's side. "The wound was so deep." To her amazement, beneath the blood-soaked gauze, the knife wound is already half closed, angry red flesh knitting itself together before her eyes. "He's a shifter," Lyra explains gently. "We heal quickly. The wound isn't what's keeping him unconscious." "Then what is?" Juliet asks, fingers entwined with Flynn's limp ones. The door opens. Nana steps in, looking remarkably composed for someone who just witnessed a man shift from wolf to human. "How is he?" she asks, patting Juliet's shoulder. "Healing, apparently," Juliet says, still stunned, "but he won't wake up." Lyra secures the bandage and meets Juliet's gaze. "It's the bond sickness," she says. "He's been separated from you, his mate, for too long. The bond has started, but it's incomplete. It's starving him, draining his life force." "What can I do?" Juliet whispers. "Tell me how to help him." "You need to complete the bond," Lyra replies. "How?" "Accept him as your mate, verbally, but—" Lyra's voice softens. "You need to understand what it means. It's not like human marriage. It can't be undone." Juliet's fingers tighten around Flynn's. "You'll be bound forever," Lyra continues. "You'll feel his emotions, sometimes even his thoughts. His pain will be your pain, his joy, your joy. The bond is everything." Someone clears their throat awkwardly. "Damn," says a male voice Juliet has never heard before. "That's the wildest shit I've ever heard." Nana sighs and swirls around. "Bob, I told you to stay in the cab," she barks. Meanwhile, Lyra presses on. "You also won't be able to bear his child. Human women don't survive it." The truth lands heavy, but as Juliet looks at Flynn, her heart already knows the answer. A life without him would be far worse. "I don't need to think about it," she says. "I already know." Nana squeezes her shoulder. "We'll give you two some privacy," she says, shooing Bob out, then pointing at Lyra. "You too, Wolf Girl. Out." The door closes. The quiet that follows feels thick with expectation. Juliet leans over Flynn, tracing his face with trembling fingers. "Flynn," she whispers, "I accept you as my mate." Nothing happens. She swallows hard and closes her eyes. This time, she speaks from the center of her soul. "I accept you, Flynn Wilder, as my mate. I bind myself to you, body and soul. I choose you, always." The bond ignites like wildfire. It starts as warmth, then builds into a glowing pulse that spreads through her chest and limbs, wrapping around her heart like silk and flame. Then she feels him. Flynn's essence floods into her, his fierce love, his grief, his longing, his hunger. He gasps, arching off the bed, a strangled sound escaping his lips. His hand clamps around hers, strong and desperate, and then... His eyes fly open, dazed and blue. "Juliet?" His voice is raw, stunned. She leans into his palm as it cups her cheek. "I'm here." Flynn searches her gaze, apprehension marking his features. "Are you not afraid of me?" he murmurs, and Juliet feels her shame, even more than she sees it, plain as day on his face. "Why would I be afraid?" she replies, cupping his face. "You've been so good to me, as a man and as a wolf." Flynn closes his eyes as though looking at her. Hearing those words hurts him. Because he feels like he doesn't deserve them, Juliet knows. "How can you say that, Juliet? After I lied to you about who I am? After I left you all alone?" "You didn't leave me," Juliet interrupts firmly. "You escaped, and you came back." Flynn looks heartbroken. "Watching you hurt like being unable to help, it was tearing me apart." "You helped, though," Juliet assures him. "You were there." "But if I'd just told you the truth from the beginning..." Juliet sighs. "I understand why you didn't," she tells him. "It's a lot. You were afraid." She meets his saddened gaze. "Flynn," she tells him, "you can make it up to me if you'd like, but know that nothing that you do will make change my mind about wanting to be with you. I was made to love you. I know that now." His gaze devours her. There's awe there, disbelief, and beneath it something darker, hungrier. "I can feel you," he whispers, realization dawning. "In my blood, my soul." His thumb brushes her lip. "You claimed me." "Yes." "You shouldn't have," he rasps, but his voice trembles with joy. "You don't know what you've done to me, Juliet. You don't know what I've been holding back." "Then stop holding back," she whispers. His pupils flare. "You don't understand," he growls, his control slipping. "I've been starving for you. For this. Every night I slept beside you as a wolf. I wanted to touch you, mark you, make you mine. I wanted to sink into you until I couldn't tell where I ended, and you began." Her breath hitches, her body burning from the inside out. She can feel it now, his need. The bond transmits every drop of it into her veins like wildfire. Flynn's hand slides up her neck, down to her waist, fingers tightening with reverent hunger, as if touching her is both agony and relief. "I need you, Juliet," he murmurs, voice hoarse. "Then take me," she whispers. "I'm not afraid anymore, Flynn." He growls, a sound low and aching with restraint, and captures her mouth. It's not a careful kiss, nor is a sweet one. It's the desperate crashing meeting of two souls finally unchained. The world around them melts away. Her body opens for him, but so does something deeper, her soul and his. The bond between them thrums, alive and insistent. He breathes her name like a vow, his pleasure flooding her like a tide, cresting through the bond until she doesn't know where she ends, and he begins. And she clutches him like he's salvation, like she never wants to let go. Epilogue. 2 years later. Juliet watches from the kitchen window as Flynn races across their backyard in wolf form, his silver fur catching the late afternoon sun. Their daughter, 6-month-old Anna, squeals with delight from her high chair, pudgy hands smacking the air. "Yes, that's Daddy," Juliet says, pressing a kiss to the crown of Anna's soft curls. "He'll be back inside soon." Anna had been the final piece, the quiet miracle that completed their unconventional family. Named after Nana, the little girl had come into their lives through a hospital connection, a fully human baby with no risk of shifting or accidental biting, just a child to love. Flynn disappears into the woods at the edge of their property. His weekly runs are a ritual now, part release, part survival. The wild inside him still needs space. Juliet understands this in a way she couldn't have when they first bonded. She remembers those early months, Flynn weak with bond sickness, both of them overwhelmed by the intensity of what they'd become. Thoughts bleeding together, emotions amplified, no boundaries, no peace. "It's too much," she'd whispered one night, shaking in his arms after waking from one of his nightmares. Not hers, his, but she'd felt it like it was her own. Flynn had looked broken, guilt spilling through their bond. "I'm sorry, I never meant to burden you." But day by day they'd learned. They found ways to live inside the bond without losing themselves to it. He taught her to filter the noise. She taught him to believe she could handle it. The back door creaks open. Flynn steps in, human again, tugging on the t-shirt and jeans he left folded by the door. His hair is damp, his skin flushed, his eyes still glowing faintly with wildness. "Feel better?" Juliet asks, already feeling the answer through the warm thrum of contentment in their bond. "Much." He crosses to Anna and scoops her up, kissing her round cheeks. "Did you miss me, little monster?" Anna babbles happily, grabbing his face with sticky fingers. Flynn doesn't mind. His love for her is fierce and infinite. "Lyra called," Juliet says, wiping down the counter. Flynn's smile dims. "And?" She says the council's still pressing. They've given her until the winter moon to choose a mate. Juliet reaches for his hand. She sounded resigned. The guilt pulses through him like a bruise in the bond. He left the pack to be with Juliet, left the title, the hierarchy, the weight of expectation. Lyra stepped up, proving herself capable, but a female alpha without a mate remains a threat to tradition. "This is my fault," Flynn murmurs, settling Anna back into her seat. "No," Juliet says firm. "It's the fault of tradition. Lyra chose her path, just like you chose yours." "I abandoned her?" "You followed your heart," she cuts in, "and you would have died if you hadn't." It's true. The bond sickness would have killed him. The pack rules were clear. No life with a human mate. One world or the other. Flynn had chosen her without hesitation. He still carries the cost, but never the regret. "I just wish I could help her." "We can," Juliet says. "We'll screen suitors like overbearing siblings, play matchmaker, set up awkward dates." That earns a smile, their bond pulsing with warmth again. "Have I told you today how much I love you, my heart?" "You don't need to," she replies, returning the smile. "But I'll never get tired of hearing it." Later, with Anna asleep in her crib, they sit together on the porch swing, watching the stars blink into view. Flynn's arm wraps around her, her head resting against his chest. The bond hums low and steady between them, soft, constant, unshakable. "Do you ever regret it?" Juliet asks. "Choosing this life with me?" Flynn looks down at her, eyes serious. "Never. This life, you, Anna, it's everything. Even with all the complications?" "Especially with the complications," he says. "They make it real." Juliet thinks of the woman she was before him, guarded, skeptical, afraid to trust her own heart. She smiles faintly. "I used to be terrified of feeling too much." Flynn smiles. "And now?" he asks. "Now I know feeling too much is worth it." She tilts her head to kiss him softly. "Especially when it's for you." The night deepens. Flynn shifts again, something he rarely does twice in a day, and settles his massive head in her lap, amber eyes gleaming with affection. Juliet runs her fingers through his fur, smiling. "Still want to cuddle on the swing, huh?" A contented rumble vibrates through him. This merging of wild and gentle man and wolf is part of their love story. She accepts all of him and he all of her. Someday they'll tell Anna the whole story. About a nurse who fell in love with a wolf. About a grandmother who faced down a pack, and a cab driver who still grumbles about weird wolf stuff, even as he brings bones and biscuits for Flynn in both forms. But most of all, they'll teach her what they've learned together. That real love is always a little wild, always a little terrifying, and always, always worth the leap. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please consider giving it a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing for more. I love hearing your thoughts. It truly helps the channel grow and keeps the magic alive. See you soon in the next story.